I can say I'm very happy. I did not expect being Kenya 1. I just like to give God all thanks because this wouldn't have happened if it weren't for him. I expected to pass, but I didn't expect to be Kenya 1. I think studying extra hours than others and during free time. Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations to all those who sat their KCP in 2021. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha in his announcement also highlighted other top performers in the examination, noting that number 3 was a tie between 6 students, while number 4 was a tie between 5 students. Meanwhile, the Education CS has assured that examination result slips will be released to all candidates who sat for the exams, even if they have fee balances. Magoha at the same time assured stakeholders and the public that there was no cheating during the exams.
We have continued to better the system, except that the Kenyans have refused to accept that the container system which we picked after I went around African countries, and we picked it in Uganda, has been watertight. The exam cannot leak. So I don't know, whoever says the exam has leaked, show us the paper the day before. It's a very simple thing they are doing, which even a man who failed the exam can do. Once the examination has left the container, then 1 or 2 teachers will go and take a photo and put it in the mtandao. But the children are already in the classroom. So now that we have stopped phone from going into classes, if you are stupid, continue to do so.
Now, the Teacher Service Commission now confirms that there is a shortage of 114,581 teachers in primary and post-primary institutions in Kenya. TSC CEO Nancy Macharia attributed the shortage to increased enrollment arising from the increasing number of school-age children, the 100% transition policy, registration of new schools, and natural attrition factors. Macharia at the same time thanked the government for finding resources to allow the Commission to recruit an average of 5,000 teachers annually for public schools. To matters politics, and Deputy President William Ruto has told off President Uhuru Kenyatta for what he described as the president's use of State House to plant seeds of discord and division among Kenyans. Stung by the president's allegations of plotting to topple him, the DP Ruto directly addressed President Kenyatta, asking the president to be the unifying factor instead of engaging in propaganda. The DP was speaking on his 3rd day of coastal region campaigns, where he led his Kenya Kwanza allies to Msambweni in Kwale County. And Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga has pledged to prioritize agriculture should the Azimio La Umoja coalition form the next government. The Azimio flag bearer, who ended a 4-day tour of the Western Kenya region, said his government will create an enabling environment for smart agriculture to thrive to boost the country's food security. The Azimio La Umoja presidential flag bearer said if elected, his government will create an enabling environment for farmers as he sought to woo the over 2 million registered voters in the former Western Kenya region. Raila said his administration will address the high cost of farm inputs to spur production of food. And the government of Kenya and Jersey have signed an asset and recovery agreement that will see the return of the 450 million shillings in seized proceeds of corruption. The agreement was signed between the Attorney General of Jersey, Mark Temple QC, and the Kenya High Commissioner to United Kingdom, Ambassador Manoy Sipisu. The funds were confiscated by Jersey authorities in 2016 following their successful conviction of Windward Trading Limited for money laundering offences. The illegal funds expected to be channeled back into the country will be used to support the government's ongoing response to the COVID-19 pandemic after decision by the Framework for the Return of Assets from Corruption and Crime in Kenya. A Nairobi County Majority Leader Abdi Guyo has lost 4 family members in a road accident at Mailisaba area on the Meru-Isiolo Road. According to a police report on the 6:30 p.m. incident, the vehicle was heading to Isiolo from Nairobi when one of the tires burst, causing the car to veer off the road. The deceased have been identified as Hassan Ibrahim Borana, aged 43 years, Fatuma Hassan Borana, 39 years old, and 2 children aged 14 and 10 years. The bodies of the deceased have been moved to Isiolo Referral Hospital mortuary. Our thoughts and prayers to the family. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto, good morning.
Second of the week and another day when the rains are coming down. Let's have a look at what's going on these Nairobi streets this morning. Nothing too crazy happening on Mombasa Road right now. We're seeing some outbound traffic and that's just past Imaradime. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but we do know that the construction continues, trying to finish that last toll station, before time runs out. We're also looking at Langata Road, which has picked up quite some this morning as well. Not to forget that the rain is going to compound issues and it's going to make us go a little bit slower, which is all right. But just know that it will slow us down in terms of traffic. Everywhere else around the city hasn't quite picked up, so that's a good thing. Now it's a good time to be out. It's starting to pick up just around the Pangani underpass, and that's going towards the city on the Thika Superhighway. Nothing too crazy just yet. Let's keep an eye on things and see how Tuesday morning pans out. Not to forget, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127 and let's get Tuesday started out right.
Okay, it is the 29th day of March 2022. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Happy Tuesday from wherever you are tuned in. Ndu?
Yes.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you too,
How are you?
Eric. I'm fine, thank you. There's a little boy called Asher. He's 5 years old. He says, I must say hello to you guys.
5-year-old?
Asher.
Asha.
So, see, the people that you work with, tell them your child said, say good morning.
He turns 5 today?
No, he's just 5.
He's just 5. Okay.
He's been insisting and I keep forgetting. So he
Okay.
said, today you tell them. I said, okay.
And you go and tell him we have said hello in a big way. Greetings.
The year has been...
Sana.
We will shake your hand in a manner in which we want you to go and shake his hand.
Yes.
So that he knows his hand has
So
been
that he
shaken.
knows. Salamu zilifika.
Salam moto moto.
City, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah. Huh?
It's just that this cold weather.
It has come.
It's starting to do the thing.
It has come.
It is with us.
Yes. Hey, but it was hot.
My body likes the heat.
Hey.
So I can't
Yes,
complain.
so you can't complain.
You never heard me complaining.
Nope. Nope.
You were enjoying it.
Nope.
And I'm also not complaining about the weather. I'm just saying.
Mythal.
You know that I'm just saying? I'm just saying that it's cold.
Siko baya. Kusema tu.
Roho safi. The clean heart. It's actually cold.
Na wewe je?
Mimi niko salama kabisa. Yes.
Okay.
Namshukuru Maulana.
Okay. So
Mwenyezi Mungu Jalali.
You are?
So yesterday, incidentally, I was doing some of my research, right? And I was studying traditional African society and how they used to govern. So I came across Chad. So yesterday we were asking the question, like, how many tribes are there in Chad,
Right.
etc. So we talked about 100 and something, right? So I went further. So looking about 180 tribes. And interestingly enough, when Otto and his friends were chopping up Africa willy-nilly, they didn't really think about that you're chopping up communities who are essentially already living together, trading with each other, etc. So Chad has 180 tribes, and the largest group is actually Arab. They're called Sao. And then you have the Benin Kebi, which is interesting because that's also one of the largest groups in northern Nigeria. So looking at the fact that they border Nigeria to the west, Niger to the northwest, Cameroon, Libya, and Sudan. And then Lake Chad then bordering, that is bordered by Cameroon, Chad itself, and of course Nigeria. So then you have the Hausa also, which is another one of the large tribes in Chad. And then you have some other little tribes there. But it was interesting that the largest
And the Hausa also in where again?
in Nigeria and Niger and parts of Cameroon.
So the largest tribes in Chad are not only found in Chad.
No.
Exactly. I thought, yeah.
But it is
yeah.
symptomatic of many African nations.
It is. It
You
is.
will find, for instance, just look at Kenya and look at the communities that are in either of the countries. Let's start with our fellow citizens in northern Kenya. You find them also where? In Somaliland.
In Somalia. Some
Yes,
on the other
look
side
at,
in
yes,
Ethiopia.
look at our relatives in Marsabit. You also find them in Ethiopia. Okay? Look at our relatives in West Pokot. You also find them in Uganda.
Yep.
Our relatives in Busia. Look at the Maasai.
Indeed. That's interesting. I just thought that.
By the way, if you look at the proliferation of these communities, you'll be amazed at where you find them. But also, have you ever read this book called God's Bits of Wood?
Yes.
By Semben Osman?
Yes.
Okay. That book captures that spirit very well. And he uses the railway to explain how these communities were and brings in the picture of what then colonialism did. Yes.
Interesting.
It's good.
It is.
Good to read.
It's good.
It is very good.
It's good. It's good to know. Good to know this. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Some of the conversations we're going to be having today. Number one, at 8 o'clock, we'll have a guest with us in the studio, and his name is David McCarley. David McCarley is a journalist. He is now also a politics and communications advisor. And we're talking about the politics of deceit, conniving, being played, daggers drawn, all that, and the lies that the populace are fed with on a daily basis. Keep it here for that. At 7 o'clock, let's talk about Climate Action and Exposition Conference that's going to be taking place in coming days. Peter Kibet Biwot, he is the managing director of the Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Eldowas. He'll be here with us at 7 o'clock to have that conversation on this particular conference and what Eldowas is doing about it. So these and more right here in Kenya's biggest conversation. And then COVID.
All right, let's take a look at what's happening with COVID. So, updates from what was found in the country yesterday. Total of 17,535,200 vaccines have been administered around the country. 16 million are doses administered to the adult population. And of course, the call continues to be. Dr. Mercy Mwangangi told us a week ago now that, look, if we don't get people to get these vaccines in the coming weeks, we're going to have to toss another 1 million out because they would have expired. So she said, look, there was a time where folks were saying, we want to be vaccinated. Where are the vaccines? Vaccines, okay, they struggled, they got them. Now, where are people? They're not getting the vaccines. So we're going to have to throw them away. This is not a good thing. And so the call continues to be, please come out and get vaccinated.
Where exactly are these vaccines?
You know, in the counties.
Where? In the county where?
This is what they told us, that in the counties you can go to your local facility and get a vaccine.
We've done that.
The reality may be totally different from the proclamation.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you hear stories, when you're told of individuals who realized that the vaccines weren't quite getting to the people. Getting meaning, it's at a center where the cost of transportation alone is daunting.
Yep.
Someone prefers not to go.
Yep.
Remember, the CEO of Metropolitan Hospital told us he took a camp to his village.
Yep.
In Muranga, for that very reason. Now, Muranga is not a place that you could say is far-flung and is difficult to reach. But there were issues. Now, think about the genuinely far-flung areas where...
We're talking about traveling long distance.
Yes, everything is long distance. And it doesn't need to rain for you to have a problem traveling.
Yeah.
So, tell me.
Indeed. I got to look at what the world is talking about now in terms of COVID, and that's what's happening in China. Now, you would think that with all the noise that was being made, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of cases in China. Well, the newest jump was 1,293 cases. We know that yesterday the rollout of the lockdown...
Countrywide or just in
countrywide? Countrywide. Okay, that's the thing. And we know that the lockdown in Shanghai started yesterday. Also, we're looking at, because of that, here again, we're looking at an economic hub not just for China, but for the world, right? And with the shutdown of Shanghai, we saw oil prices then be affected. All sorts of things happened yesterday as a result of that. And so the world is asking questions. Is this the way to go about it? Well, look, China's not asking the world for its opinion, but it's going ahead and saying, you know what? We are not going to go through this again. The question is, how serious is this? It's been driven by the Omicron variant. They're saying tens of millions of people, including the entire northeastern province of Jilin and the tech hub city of Shenzhen in the south, have been ordered into lockdown because of this 1,293 cases. But it is clear what happened at the very beginning of COVID, where China was the focus, Wuhan was the epicenter, all of this was happening. The country does not want to go back here again. So it looks as though, oh, goodness, we're making a fuss about nothing. But look, they're saying, you know what? No, we've just gotten back on our feet. We see one case, that's enough for us to say, look, we're not going to go into this again. Shut it down. When we are satisfied that this thing then has been eliminated, then we can see ourselves, coming back. But, say whatever you need to say. We are not doing this anymore. Is the policy changing? Well, kind of. The principal elements remain in place. Travel to and from China is strictly limited, and there are restrictions on internal movement. Travelers from abroad with permission to enter China are screened and sent to government-designated hotels for mandatory quarantine of at least 2 weeks, followed by a further period of monitoring. Regular community testings are carried out. This is what is happening in Shanghai right now. They've shut down not because they've seen cases, but because they want to test the population. All non-essential businesses have been shut, apart from food shops and other essential suppliers. Schools are closed and public transport is suspended, with almost all vehicle movement banned. People with mild symptoms no longer need to attend designated hospitals, but they need to isolate at centralized facilities. Quarantine period rules had been reduced. Citywide testing is no longer carried out, except for now what's happening in Shanghai. If they see that there is then need, they will now introduce further measures. But that's about the size of it.
Those ones are serious. Live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. If you're online, say hello. We're going to be doing that roll call shortly after we take a look at the weather forecast. 19 minutes after 6. Good morning.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi with a bit of a sprinkle through the city. Highs of 26 and lows of 16 today. 14 degrees and mostly clear in Nakuru. Highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 25 in a cloudy Nyeri at 15 currently, coming down to lows of 14. It's 15 and mostly cloudy in Eldoret. We'll see highs of 25. Light rain in Mombasa at 27. Highs of 33 and lows of 26. And we're looking at partly cloudy conditions in Malindi at 28. Highs of 33 and lows of 27. Kisumu is cloudy at 20. We'll see highs of 29. We'll see highs of 28 in Kakamega, where it's cloudy at 17. Out in Kampala, it's clear this morning at 19, highs of 26 and lows of 19 as well. It's raining in Dar es Salaam at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 24 today. Clear conditions in Johannesburg at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 13, while it's raining in Lagos this morning at 28. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 27. At 24 degrees this morning, Kinshasa is mostly clear. Coming into the afternoon, we'll see highs of 32 and lows of 24. It's raining out in China, Beijing specifically, at 12 degrees. That'll be today's high, coming down to lows of 8. 12 degrees and raining in Paris as well. Before the sun comes up, we'll see highs of 27 and lows of 9. Light rain as well in Paris, moving through into Western Europe. 8 degrees, highs of 10 and lows of 5. And it's -4 and cloudy in New York, still experiencing the last of winter. We'll see highs of 0 and lows of -5.
Okay, 21 after 6.
Good morning, everybody. We can see you online already. Eddie Oduor says, good morning, Koru is up and listening. I almost want to sing Koru. Okay. I am rather disappointed with our politicians, he says, especially the president and his deputy. They're in a verbal exchange which is not good for our cohesion. And then he goes on to say the DP should tone down his attack on the president. Well, okay. Michael Gital says, good morning all. Baraza Simiu is in Hargeisa. And he says, tell CT, there's nothing like cold weather, just inappropriate clothing. Here in Hargeisa, it's getting to the cold season. Good morning, Spice. Tuned in from Ombaso. I wonder where that is. Morris Onyando says, good morning.
That is in... if you're talking constituency, it's Nyando constituency. If
Nyando
you're talking
constituency.
county, it's Kisumu County.
Interesting. His name is Oyando. Dagi Oguta says, good morning, Situation Room people. Tune in from Kisumu. Now, when people in Kisumu say it is very cold, I don't understand.
Yes, that is people in Kisumu telling you it is cold.
Very cold.
If someone in Timborough tells you it's very cold.
I love it. I love it. If somebody in Timborough says it's very cold,
my friend.
It must be frozen.
Completely.
Timborough. Brian Omunupi says, kutoka Namhale. Namahele. Tuko pamoja sana. Good morning. My regards to the 5-year-old who asked to say hey to you, workmates and listeners. Indeed, thanks, Washira Wilfred. Karuri Kamal says he's tuned in from Kasarani. Evelyn Kavaya tuned in as well from Riyadh. Odero says he's tuned in from the Great Wall of Kino, and he says his heroes today are my hero in the KCP results are not the top 10 pupils, but those little souls who ducked bullets and had to write the papers with the sound of gunshots from Laikipia and its environs, where bandits are having a field day while security is protecting the rich in Nairobi. Say it louder, my friend.
Yep.
Condolences to the family of Mweshimiu. That's what Kennedy Ouma says. Not quite sure whom you may be speaking of. Sky Karish, we see you. Your best. Good morning. Rundo listening in from Dubai. Present from Bungoma is David Nyar Abeti, tuned in from Majengo in Mombasa. Good morning. We see you all. Karibuni sana.
Everybody, welcome.
We are still in the great nation of Chad. Okay? A nation rich with history. Should we call it a tapestry of delightful history?
Oh, well.
Okay. Apo. Right. We're still in Chad. Huh? Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it.
Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it.
My experience as a young lad herding cows, there were some shrubs which were very steady and very firm. They didn't grow beyond maybe some like 12 inches.
But
you could tether a cow to those things and the cow wouldn't go anywhere.
Was it strength or psychology that played
no,
here?
You try to, as a child,
you can't uproot that thing.
You try and uproot it, you will fall on your backside and it will still be exactly where it was. So with time, you got to know. So you could tether a cow or a cow to that. And you knew very well nothing would happen.
Interesting.
A full-grown cow.
Yes. So I got the impression what I was referring to as a shrub was a fully grown shrub. The roots were deep.
Yeah.
There it is. The roots were deep. I like that.
But only when a tree
is big and strong can you tether a cow to it. And I'm saying sometimes the size isn't measured in terms of girth or height. No. It's the steadiness of it.
Bas.
Yes.
Twenty-six after 6. Let's look at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke. Premium content online. Enigma revisited the evolution of Raila Odinga. He didn't look like a cool guy. You couldn't see the fire in his belly. That's the story. If you want to get the details, www.standardmedia.co.ke.
So celebrations around the country yesterday because of the KCP results that were released. again, focus was on the numbers in terms of scores that people got, and everybody was looking for those high numbers. We were looking at 427, 428 as the highest. And it's just interesting that Odero said this morning, because there are some who did sit the exam and don't even know what they were doing because of the insecurity that was wrapped around them.
Yep.
And still continues to be. So here, on one side, there's jubilation in those who had a more than conducive environment to be able to write these exams. And on the other side of the divide are those who wrote the exams, willing to do so, but then have to contend with things that are going on in their neck of the woods. That notwithstanding, joy surprises as private schools bounce back. That's what's on the front page of the Standard. Gilgil Hills Magata Bruce Mackenzie emerges the best student in 2021 KCPE after scoring 428 marks as private academies grab 12 of the 14 top slots, with little-known schools also producing top stats. Remember, we saw last year's results put public schools, a shade ahead of private schools. It looks like now we're looking at the opposite, at least for KCPE for now. 427 was the next, 426, a number of those, 425 as well. It's given coverage quite across the paper today. Private schools have bounced back, posting better scores in the 2021 KCPE results released by Education CS Professor George Magoha. Of the 14 schools that produced top candidates, private schools claimed 12. This is a major improvement compared to the 2020 KCPE results, where only 5 candidates from private schools appeared among the top 15 national best performers. So we look at the top score of 428. This was 5 points lower than the 2020 score, which was 433 by Ashley Momanyi last year. 6 other students tied in positions with 426 marks, and then it went down from there. Magoha highlighted the gains of the education sector under President Uhuru Kenyatta. According to him, key achievements that will define Mr. Kenyatta's legacy include restoring integrity of national exam, introducing the competency-based curriculum, construction of classrooms, and providing scholarships to needy students. It was interesting because we saw that 320, if you want to do comparisons, only 320 students then were caught or accused of cheating, which is a lower number than they had previously found. So,
320 out of 1 million candidates.
On subjects, Magoha announced that English composition, Kiswahili Lugha, Kiswahili Insha, the Kenya Sign Language composition, science and social studies papers recorded improvement performance compared to 2020. However, mathematics, English language, and religious education papers recorded a drop in performance. He said female candidates performed slightly better than their male counterparts. In English and Kiswahili, male candidates perform slightly better than their female counterparts in Kenya Sign Language, mathematics, science, and social studies, as well as religious education. So it was interesting that through all of this, we didn't see then what happens to those who did not finish their exams, because we do have a number of those who did not finish. There were those who were not able to because of the security situation. What happens to them? That's a question, and it must be addressed.
The number of A's, the number of over 400s was higher this year than 2020. The private schools are back. In fact, I'm just looking at the top schools here. The Standard has on the front page the top 30 schools, all of them private. Gilgil Hills, Makini, Holy Family Misiku Girls, Emmanuel Academy, Kitengela International, Rofin Field Junior, all that, you're just looking at its Academy, Kitale School, Emmanuel Academy, Moi Primary Nakuru, Mudasa Academy, St. Peter's Elite Gilgil, Crystal Hills Academy, Moi Nyeri Complex, Busy Bee Academy. It is, a great showing here by private schools. But remember, the previous year, it was a great showing by public schools.
Exactly.
So what does this mean? How is it possible that standard 7s of last year in private schools are performing better than the standard 8s of last year in private schools? I mean, how does it happen?
It's odd you asked the right question, because a lot of significance ought to be placed on not the year, but on the types of students who populate a certain exam year. You'll find, for instance, a school does reasonably well in the exams, and then there's a year in which that particular class does well. Now, if you look across the country, you suddenly find that that year seems to have done well right across the board. And so the question you're asking is a valid one. So what is it that happens? Is it something to do with the exams? What does it have to do with? It's a question that has remained unanswered to date.
To date.
Yes, conclusively, that is. Because you could argue, if you were to look at a school and ask, those who preceded them, how did they do?
Yeah.
The understanding is that when the year that precedes you does well, this year struggles to do better.
Indeed.
Sometimes they don't succeed. Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
That is not difficult to understand. Then there are those who argue it depends on who was teaching them. Yes, and it depends on how they were ushered. Because the examination is not something you just sit for. You are ushered into it. The effort that was put into ensuring that. But then also, you have to go back to the time when they entered school and you say, these students had shown aptitude at this particular age or stage. So that aptitude has continued. Now, the argument about private schools, however, is incomplete if you don't look at the history, where it was argued that many private schools more or less force-fed their students into just passing the exam. And that when it got to now secondary school, these students didn't fare well if you followed the trajectory of their learning. Now, it is a discussion that requires a lot more attention than the papers have given.
Indeed.
It's a big one.
Yes.
It's a big one. Keep it here for more. Let's take this quick break at 27 to 7. Barasa Simiu says, City, that we should tell you there is nothing like cold weather, just inappropriate clothing.
He has a very valid point.
Here in Hargeisa, it's getting to cold season.
He is in Hargeisa.
Yes.
He has no option but to be right.
Is it building up? Yes, it is. A little bit here and there on Mombasa Road. And then we're seeing North Airport Road spilling off from Mombasa Road going in the easterly direction. And that continues to build up as you then go onto the eastern bypass. But it's not at panic stage just yet. Langata Road is still free and clear. There's an option for you to use right now getting into the city if that's where you're headed, or then going the long way out towards the bypass. But where we're seeing the most action this morning is right around the Pangani underpass, and that's heading towards the city from the Thika Superhighway. Kiambu Road still looking good. Now's the time to get on it and get out before it gets crazy. Coming out of Westlands, also not too much of a headache right now. 6:30 and not much traffic. It's a good day to be out. How about doing so now before it does clog up? Because that is going to happen inevitably. Okay, let's take a look at what it looks like in about half an hour. But for now, it's a good time to be out, like I said. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE and text on 40127.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Now, remember the story that we've been covering about the island of Jersey, where some money has been stashed, and the authorities in Jersey have been seeking the repatriation of some Kenyans to that country. What's the word? It's not repatriation. What is it?
It is repatriation.
Extradition.
It is repatriation. when you extradite it.
Yes. So, the extradition of some 2 Kenyans to the island of Jersey because of business deals that had been concluded there, and there's a company that had been found to have been guilty of some money, right? Millions of dollars of public funds allegedly stolen by 2 Kenyan public officials are being returned to the country of Kenya to buy COVID-19 equipment following a landmark agreement. The deal with Jersey, a self-governing island in the English Channel, has been hailed as a victory for the people of Kenya by Kenya's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Manoa Esipisu. The entangled web of connections that eventually ended in this deal first emerged following the divorce case with Samuel Gishuru, former boss of Kenya Power. Then we went to all these cases. Okay, now there's a deal that was signed by the UK government, the island of Jersey, and Kenya to repatriate this cash to this country. How much is the money? A lot of money. It is in the tune of
415 million.
415 million Kenya shillings.
Only.
Is what is coming back into the country.
That's not the entire amount that is alleged to have been stashed in Jersey.
Yeah, the full amount that was alleged to. So, in 2016, the Jersey-registered company Windward Trading Limited pleaded guilty to 4 counts of money laundering in a Jersey court. The court ruled that the company, whose ultimate owner was Mr. Samuel Gishuru, should be stripped of more than $4.9 million. That's about 540 million shillings in assets for money laundering. It's most of this money, which allegedly came from corrupt activities in Kenya between 1999 and 2002, that's being repatriated. That was made possible by a pact signed in Kenya by the then UK Prime Minister Theresa May and President Uhuru Kenyatta and Swiss and Jersey governments. In the deal, it was established that the allegedly stolen assets could be returned to Kenya, provided they were used exclusively for development projects. This arrangement, known as the Framework for the Return of Assets from Corruption and Crimes to Kenya, FRAC, was hailed by the UK and the United Nations as innovative and novel. It gives the Jersey authorities a license to unfreeze money that they believe was stolen and send it back before those accused of stealing it go on trial. The question for us in Jersey was, should we wait for a convoluted judicial process based on the actions of 2 individuals which have been shown to be illegal in the Jersey court, or should we allow the money to be returned to the benefit of the citizens of Kenya? This according to Senator Ian Ghost, a Jersey Minister for External Relations. The handing over of the money is FRAC's first test. Spending in a transparent and accountable way is a job of Crown Agents, a non-profit international development company, and its boss, Fergus Drake, told the BBC that he was in contact with Kenya's Health Ministry to assess what was needed in the light of this. So, deals are signed. UK, Swiss, Jersey, Kenya. They say, this money that is sitting here, let it come back to Kenya, okay? But then, now this is where the conditions come in. This money shall not come at you. We just send it back to you, to your national treasury. And then you, as a government, decide how you're going to include in your budget, in your next financing of your programs. No. We are going to sit and agree where the money should go. So they go into a lengthy negotiation between Kenya and the authorities in Jersey on, okay, this is our priority project. Nah, this one, no, we don't think so. Okay, this one is a no, this one, we don't think so. Okay, how about COVID? Well, yeah, COVID sounds novel. So yes, we can actually send money for you to deal with COVID response. But we not give you the money. No. Because if we give you the money, you're going to eat it. We are going to give some international NGO that we know. Yes.
Sorry, I have a question.
What is?
This money, Shebi is Kenya money. Originally.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not Kenya's money.
It is Kenya's money.
Okay. Then somebody took the money and hid it in Jersey.
A Kenyan.
Yes. Abi?
Yes.
Jersey people now said, CEO, your money is here.
Yes.
How far? Kenya said, okay.
You bring it back.
Bring it back. On top of it, you want to come and tell me, in fact, we'll give you, however, let me tell you how you use this money.
Yes.
You see that patronizing thing I've been telling you people about?
Yep.
Here it is again, rearing its ugly head. It's not yours. The country is not yours either.
No, we want to ensure that there is good governance and prudent use of the money. This is the thing. This is what now those people who talk about when we are going to borrow money from the West versus going to borrow money from the
China.
East and China in Pacific. This is it. We want to know exactly how you're using that money.
It is our money.
Yes.
It's just like it's totally with you. It's not yours.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
It's
But your
not
people
your-
have demonstrated
And you
inability.
have also demonstrated that you are unable to prevent these people from sending money out of the country.
Then you
Yeah.
want to come and tell us how we're going to use it again?
Yes, because if we give it to you
but-
directly, the money might come back to Jersey.
Or somewhere else for that.
So we want the money
matter.
to come back to Jersey, but we want to know how it's coming back to Jersey.
Shock on you. Did they not hear? Now they said it's okay for you to go to COVID.
So the money is coming through two NGOs. One is AMREF and the other one is Crown Agents. Okay? NGOs operating in Kenya. That's how the money shall come. That's how the money then shall be used for COVID. And they say it shall go into buying beds, into equipping hospitals to help with COVID response.
I have another question.
Please ask.
What is the COVID situation in Kenya today that needs this amount of funding?
Do you need beds or do you not need beds?
We don't need beds right now for COVID.
No. When you are receiving your own money, you should show more gratitude than you're showing.
Appreciate that the money is coming back.
Yes.
So we should be.
We can tell them, okay, folks, that COVID thing isn't quite working for us. Perhaps you should consider.
But they did now. They said other things. Can we do this? Olga said no. Can we do this? They said no. Then somebody said COVID. They say, hey, in fact, that sounds very good. What's the COVID situation in the country today? What have we been looking at? What have we been talking about? How about things in terms of priority? They would have even tried and said
it's still going into healthcare. Is health not a priority?
COVID.
No.
It's coming to buy beds. It's going to equip and buy a couple of PPEs. Kwani gloves are only one when there's COVID.
You people didn't hear when they told you the other day that they want to throw some of them away because they've expired. One KEMSA. Where were you?
See, now that's the other problem. KEMSA. If it had come through Crown Agents, it would have been used.
Now, you see, you are confusing the issue.
Sorry.
Jersey has not said they're giving it to KEMSA. So stop confusing things.
Don't mix issues here.
Said they're bringing it directly to the Ministry of Health.
No, they said they will give AMREF and Crown.
Even the Ministry of Health will not touch a shilling.
Wait,
Afia House is not getting nada.
no, wait.
Nothing.
That means that you cannot go to that place at in Kiamaiko. Was it Kiamaiko where there was a guy making beds? At you go and make those beds there at you.
The ICU.
or the other guy was making benches.
No,
We have
please.
standards for the beds.
Excuse me.
Where do they come
Excuse
from?
me.
See, of course, they'll come from abroad.
Excuse me.
Yes?
I said that money will not touch here. What? That money will not touch Kenya's border.
Now, this Crown company, is it a Kenyan company?
Crown Agents is an NGO.
It's an NGO.
Okay, based in Kenya.
It works in Kenya.
They have representation in Kenya. Let's put it like
works
that.
in Kenya.
And then AMREF, Kenya.
AMREF is also
we're represented in
AMREF
Kenya.
Africa.
And there are Kenyans who work there. Okay.
Let's see. 400 and how many?
A lot of money,
Can I quote
Buana.
another 400 something that happened the other day?
Yes.
460 million that was supplied for something that was never supplied. People are joking.
You know
This is
something?
plenty money.
It was, in my mind, it would have been better if that money went to the ministry directly.
Let me tell you who Crown Agents are. I've gone to their website, crownagents.com. Who are we? We manage large programs and projects to accelerate self-sufficiency and prosperity around the world. Crown Agents is a not-for-profit international development company that works in partnership with our clients to design and implement practical solutions to their needs. We work with ministries, governments, institutions, donors, foundations, philanthropists, and the private sector, and Jersey Island, well, I've just added that, to tackle the complex challenges that they face. Whether that's seeking to meet the SDGs, improving quality of life and opportunities for their citizens. Very many things that they do. They have 3 broad areas of expertise: supply chain delivery, government system strengthening, and project fund management. See, these are the best candidates.
These are the guys. Because
Project fund management, see ECO fund. Government system strengthening, see money is coming to the government project.
Ministry of Health.
Supply chain delivery.
Question.
You want beds? We will
and
bring
you want
beds.
PPE.
You know,
Your money.
yeah, I understand it. But remember the other thing that we need to understand. Over time, there organizations that we refer to in this country as NGOs that have been set up specifically for these functions.
Oh, I thought you were going to say have been set up specifically
For what functions?
No, for functions of managing either donor money or money that comes from.
And for managing government processes.
For managing processes that ordinarily would have been managed by the government.
Yes.
So whether it is the EU giving money, whether it is USAID giving money, the other organizations, there's some called the Frederick William Jackson Foundation. They're quite a number. And one of the things that is the hallmark of their existence is that they have a proven track record of delivering on what it is that they say they are going to do. Yes. So all these lengthy stories that we normally hear when money goes to the ministries and you're told, well, you know, we're still at the planning stage. Then before you know it, or half the money has been spent. Said, but I thought you just said a few minutes ago that it was at the planning stage. Said, yeah, we're still planning. Before you know it,
Gone.
It's gone. And the story is the money isn't enough. Our history with misappropriating funds that come to us is so profound that if somebody wants to manage us with kid gloves, I can understand where they're coming from.
Of course you can understand where they're coming from.
But if it's their money, this one is our money. You see there's a difference here.
Exactly. It's not your own. Then you want to come and tell us what you can do with it.
Yeah, with your money.
Your own money, no problem.
I understand perfectly. In fact, even orders around if you like.
He who pays the piper
calls the tune.
Now, in this case, piper, you're not paying.
No.
It's not your own money.
Yes.
But you want to come and say what people can do with it.
And by the way, the interest, see, that money has been sitting in Jersey for how long?
You think they'll tell you that there was interest on that money? Stay there and wait.
No. They'll tell you, with our system here, it's you who pays us interest for keeping your money.
We've been holding for you facilitation fee. So, in fact, that 416 million is around 300 now because facilitation fee, we've been holding the money for you.
And even sending it is going to cost.
I mean,
Transfer.
And managing it. And
That's like
they should just stay with it because by the time they finish with it and send it, there's nothing left.
Anyway, City, what are you looking at?
If 200 million enters Kenya, we'll have done well.
Nice.
And they'll give you drugs which have a month before they expire. Anyway, what I was looking at was the East African and this story of the... Remember when we had our PS for East African Cooperation here? Well, the story that he told us, which was an eventuality they were anticipating, has actually come to pass.
Which is what?
DRC. Now,
They have cows.
They most definitely have cows. They most definitely have cows. See, they're rich in mineral resources, but I would argue natural resources. Cows are also a natural resource. They have cows. Yes, DRC has joined the East African community. Yes, exactly. And you know, with them, we have Burundi, Rwanda also joined. Now, these three countries, I mentioned them because for the longest time, they are known as Francophone countries within East Africa. Rwanda were the first to tell the French, us, we are going to be Anglophone from now on. This Francophone thing, it's your language, you keep it. Yes. But the beauty, there are figures that the good doctor was mentioning here, and they didn't make sense to me then. But when I read the article of what it is that it means, DRC has around 94 million people. So if you cobble up all the population of East Africa, he said this, we become the biggest trading bloc, one of the biggest trading blocs on the continent, which means it makes us very competitive even worldwide.
So how many do we become now?
We come around, we're close to 300.
Okay, the 300 million. Right.
Those are many people.
Right.
There's very many people.
And vast geographical area.
It is. But we have to talk about the chink in this particular armor. The vast majority of our people, much as we talk of it as being a big trading bloc, are poor. So when you talk about trading, you're probably going to be trading in very basic things. This bloc doesn't have a huge middle class who are normally associated with a huge spending that are supposed to spur on economic developments when we talk of these things.
Yes.
But the hope is that when you have such an association, that particular situation will change and that this middle class will grow.
You grow that market.
We grow the market, and as we trade among ourselves, that wealth is retained within our regions, and it isn't dissipated elsewhere.
Yeah.
That is the plan.
And if we use the resources that we have within
Which
the
are plenty.
Plenty. Start from South Sudan with all the resources that they have, coming to Uganda, into Kenya, into DRC, into Rwanda, into Burundi. There's serious resource here we're talking about. Just having DRC in the block and the potential that DRC brings to this market. Even just basic consumerism. Just even if we just talk about the basics, right? Milk, like we said.
It's a market, ready market waiting.
Just there.
Waiting. You know, one of the things that happens when you travel, I remember when I was doing some work in Mbarara in Uganda, the thing that I found surprising, for me it was surprising. There was a KCB bank, there was an Equity bank, and at that time there was an Akumat. And I thought, this far north.
Imagine.
Was it west? Now, if you think about what the region, the capacity of the region, and as you say correctly, and what we are able to do, if it is harnessed, and the largest resource being the human resource, is actually managed properly, forget being one of the largest. In reality, in terms of a trading block, it is the largest on the continent, this one.
Yep.
But what it is likely to get and to do, because, you see, you talk about natural mineral resources. Tanzania, DRC have them. They have more than they know what to do with. Okay? We have resources.
Talk about oil resources.
They do. But talk about human resource. We have more than we know what to do with.
Yep.
Just think of combining all these resources together and think of the powerhouse that this African community could be.
If only the leadership could basically just move the steps that need to be moved.
That's it.
Because we have slowed down a lot in very many things. Andrew says, so DRC is joining a moribund EAC. Kudos. Is it really moribund?
No, it's not moribund. I think the EAC don't talk a lot about what it is that they're able to do or they've been able to do. But it isn't. It's not dead. Far from it. You only need to consider that you can actually move with ease within the East African bloc, that we even have a passport for the East African community.
Yeah.
It may look like it's nothing. It isn't nothing.
It isn't nothing.
It isn't nothing. That you can move freely also means you can trade freely. If you can trade freely, you already have a situation that has been formalized that previously didn't exist. Now it's a question of just tightening the screws and making sure that it becomes seamless.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right, so it looks like still motorists in some parts of the country are grappling a major fuel shortage as oil marketing firms reportedly hoard petroleum products to protest at the government's failure to pay them outstanding subsidies running into billions of shillings. The government pays monthly subsidies to the oil marketers to stabilize the prices of petroleum products as a measure to control the cost of living and cushion consumers from the price increase shocks. Well, clearly that's not happening. Petrol stations in the North Rift and Western Kenya have been reporting stockouts over the last few days, and the situation got worse yesterday, a scenario that industry players warn could unfold in other parts of the country. Some unscrupulous traders in North Rift towns took advantage of the shortage to raise pump prices. They sold petrol and diesel above the maximum recommended prices set by IPRA every month. IPRA sets the prices on the 14th day of each month. In the latest reviews, it raised petrol and diesel prices by 5 shillings per litre, but cost of kerosene remained unchanged. Industry sources claim that oil marketing companies were hoarding the products to protest the failure by government to remit the funds it owes them for foregoing their margins under the fuel stabilization program. To keep the fuel prices stable, the firms have been foregoing their margins, but later compensated by government with money from the Petroleum Development Levy. Now, that money from the levy, unfortunately, has not come. They are said to be owed 32 billion shillings, which will be equivalent to margins for about 4 months, going by the 8 billion, which the ministry has in the past said is the amount paid monthly by the government to cushion Kenyans from high cost of fuel. However, the ministry disputed the figure, saying it owes only 13 billion. Andrew Kamau, who is the principal secretary in the Petroleum Ministry, said the shortage of fuel was due to panic buying after motorists reacted to reports of petroleum products shortage in the country. But says, you know what? Once we diffuse that situation, things should be able to go back to normal.
But then, so why are they Well, we know
Why
the
they're not
National
paying the
Treasury is not.
marketers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question. Why are they not paying the marketers? Now, marketers saying they've not received their money say, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to raise the prices so that we can get...
Basically, what it
money.
means is that every time the IPRA announces new fuel prices and then says, but the fuel price will not change by March because there's a subsidy, it is the oil marketing companies' margins that are going to be
affected,
funded by the subsidy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the subsidy is not coming to the oil marketing companies, it means that their margins are zero.
Yes.
They're not making money.
And they cannot not make money. Yeah.
Okay, that's a tough one. That's a very, very tough one. Now, the central bank has done something, has taken some action. The central bank has suspended Ecobank for flouting Forex trading rules. It's the second such action against a commercial bank in the country in 2 years, drawing anxiety among other banks. The regulator ordered Ecobank to stop foreign exchange dealings between today and the 4th of April for unsafe trading practices. Ecobank did not have sufficiently robust risk controls to prevent breaches on its foreign exchange exposure limits or the inaccurate reporting of its position. CBK said in a statement, the regulator ordered Ecobank to fix loopholes in its foreign currency trading platform by March 31st. Under CBK's anti-money laundering and terrorism finance regulations, banks have strict responsibilities to flag abnormal transactions by clients that could signal a violation of the law. Transfers, deposits and withdrawals of more than 999,999, for example, require clients to submit additional information to the central bank. Other possible warning signs include an unexplained geographic distance between a customer and the commercial bank. So something happened with Ecobank. Some transfer of some Forex happened with Ecobank. CBK flagged and said, you guys, how did this happen? Ecobank said, enyewe, makosa imefanyika hapa kidogo. The good doctor said, my friends, for the next 4 days, do not trade in Forex. Put in all the controls before we allow you to deal in Forex. No interbank Forex trading, nothing. Do not trade Forex because we don't trust you.
But it boils down to that, really.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, you exposed the bank, you exposed customers.
Heavy losses over the next 1 week. We're looking at 4th of April is when they'll be reinstituted with
Yep.
everything. That's heavy losses in terms of foreign exchange.
Is to give a plausible reason and an explanation for what it is that you're doing.
Yes.
If they are not satisfied.
If they're not satisfied, they tell you, my friend, no. So keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting from Nairobi to Mombasa, Nakuru, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, to Hargeisa, to Jamena in Chad, to where else? All over the world on www.spicefm.co.ke and SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Magata Bruce Mackenzie is the top student in the 2021 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations with 428 marks. Mackenzie from Gilgil Hills Academy was closely followed by Ashley Kerubo from Mackenzie School Kibos with 427 marks.
I can say I'm very happy. I did not expect being Kenyan. I just like to give God all thanks because this wouldn't have happened if it weren't for him. I expected to pass, but I didn't expect to be Kenyan. I think studying extra hours than others and during free time. Yeah.
Yes. Congratulations to all the candidates who sat the 2021 KCPE. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary George Muga, in his announcement, also highlighted other top performers in the examination, noting that number 3 was a tie between 6 students, while number 4 was a tie between 5 students. But all the education CS also assured that examination result slips will be released to all candidates who sat for the exams, even if they have fee balances. Muga at the same time assured stakeholders and the public that there was no cheating during the exam.
We have continued to better the system, except that the Kenyans have refused to accept that the container system which we picked after I went around African countries, and we picked it in Uganda, has been watertight. The exam cannot leak. So I don't know, whoever says the exam has leaked, show us the paper the day before. It's a very simple thing they are doing, which even a man who failed the exam can do. Once the examination has left the container, then 1 or 2 teachers will go and take a photo and put it in the mtandao. But the children are already in the classroom. So now that we have stopped phone from going into classes, if you are stupid, continue to do so.
Meanwhile, the Teacher Service Commission now confirms that there is a shortage of 114,581 teachers in primary and post-primary institutions in Kenya. TSC CEO Nancy Macharia attributed the shortage to increased enrollment arising from the increasing number of school-age children, the 100% transition policy, the registration of new schools and natural attrition factors. Macharia at the same time thanked the government for finding resources to allow the Commission to recruit an average of 5,000 teachers annually for public schools.
The TSC will act firmly and expeditiously on those teachers who will be found guilty of aiding in examination irregularities. As a commission, we thank the government for funding resources to allow us to recruit an average of 5,000 teachers annually for our public schools. However, we still have a shortage of 114,581 teachers in primary and post-primary institutions due to the increased enrollment arising from the 100% transition policy and registration of new schools.
Now let's switch gears to matters of politics, and Deputy President William Ruto has told of President Uhuru Kenyatta for what he described as the president's use of State House to plant seeds of discord and division among Kenyans. Stung by the president's allegations of plotting to topple him, DP Ruto directly addressed President Kenyatta, asking the president to be the unifying factor instead of engaging in propaganda. The DP was speaking on his 3rd day of the Coastal Region campaigns, where he led his Kenya Kwanza allies to Msambweni in Kwale County. And Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga has pledged to prioritize agriculture should the Azimio La Umoja coalition form the next government. The Azimio flag bearer, who ended a 4-day tour of Western Kenya region, said his government will create an enabling environment for smart agriculture to thrive to boost the country's food security. The Azimio La Umoja presidential flag bearer said if elected, his government will create an enabling environment for farmers as he sought to woo the over 2 million registered voters in the former Western Kenya region. Raila said in his administration, he will address the high cost of farm inputs to spur production of food. Now, the government of Kenya and Jersey have signed an asset and recovery agreement that will see the return of 450 million shillings in seized proceeds of corruption. The agreement was signed between the Attorney General of Jersey, Mark Temple QC, and the Kenya High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Manoy Sipisu. The funds were confiscated by Jersey authorities in 2016 following the successful conviction of Winward Trading Limited for money laundering offences. The illegal funds, expected to be channeled back into the country, will be used to support the government's ongoing response to the COVID-19 pandemic after a decision by the Framework for the Return of Assets from Corruption and Crime in Kenya. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, this is when it starts this morning, and even with the rain, it's when we see things start to clog up. Coming off Mombasa Road, we're looking at outbound traffic on around the Maritime all the way towards General Motors, out on Mombasa Road, and that's moving very slowly this morning. Also going towards North Airport Road, out towards Outer Ring, that happens. Let's look further up Mombasa Road, and we're looking at it coming from the Way Bridge, very slow, out towards the SGR. The Southern Bypass not looking bad this morning. Uhuru Highway is starting to pick up, but nothing crazy at the moment. The Thika Super Superhighway didn't take long to show its true colors this morning. Quite a lot of traffic all the way past the Outer Ring Junction through into the city via the Pangani underpass. And we're looking at back-to-back traffic on Limuru Road, as well as coming out of Chiromo. That's going to build up as you get towards Wangari Maathai Road. So let's keep an eye on that and see what it does. But for now, I think you should be able to get it out without too much of a scratch. Coming out of Westerns as well, we see that building up. Traffic hour starts early today. It's raining. The roads are slippery. Be careful. Let us know what you see where you are. Talk to us on SpiceFM, KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 7 after 7 on the 29th day of March,
the only way to start your day.
Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this lovely Tuesday. We'll be talking about climate action shortly, but first the day's proverb.
Okay. Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it.
Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it. Okay.
You serve two purposes. One, you keep the cow in check, you do not harm the tree. If the tree is immature, that cow will uproot it. Yes.
If the tree is immature, yes, the cow will uproot it.
For sure.
The tree is mature, then
it will withstand the tagging.
It will withstand and provide some shade.
Among other things.
To the cow at some point. That's a good one. Right, so let's talk about climate action, right? Our guest this morning is a man who, we were talking about being called in Hargeisa. He's from Eldoret. If you just look at how he's dressed, you'll know he's from Eldoret.
And for those who don't know, Timborough is not very far from Eldoret.
And Nairobi is cold.
And Nairobi is cold as well. Peter Kibet Arabwot is the managing director of the Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Eldowas. Peter, karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante sana.
It's good to have you on the show here.
I'm also happy. I've been following, now I'm inside.
You've been there on the peripheries, now here you are.
Yes.
That hot seat is right there.
Oh, yes.
Where you are seated.
Thank you very much.
Is it very cold in Eldoret?
Not really.
Not
actually,
yet, yeah?
It's quite hot at the moment. We are anticipating the rains. So normally it's humid and quite hot. Yeah.
When should it start raining?
I think it should have started actually mid-March, around 15th. But now it's a bit delayed. But there are some sporadic rainfalls around town. And we hope that by end of the month, it should start raining.
Peter, there's something that has puzzled me. I've never really understood these long, short, medium-term rain periods. I've never, in all the years I've lived, I've never really understood it. But I'm even more confused now. Is there any regularity or consistency with this pattern? So you can say authoritatively, the long rains are with us. The short rains are with us. Can we say it? Or
it's no longer, actually, when we were young, it was very consistent. So you would know that by end of February, beginning of March, there's going to be a lot of rains.
Yes.
And it used to start, in Eldoret, it used to start from eastern side, Cherangani Hills. But these days you cannot tell. You can't even know where it's coming from. So it just comes.
The rain just comes.
And it comes at night.
I'm glad.
It used to be immediately after lunch. Just around lunch, before lunch.
Yeah.
A
Look
lot
at
of rain.
Cherangani,
And then
you
it
see
comes
the rain.
back.
No, but he's right. It's like if you are traveling to my neck of the wood, you get to Kericho, you knew at a certain time in the afternoon, it was always raining.
raining, yes.
There was no question. It was raining.
Yes.
Now,
You can't tell.
yes, the why is what I'm interested in. Yes.
I think what has happened over the years, if you look at even those days we were young, like myself, I was young in the 90s, 1980s, 85, henceforth, there was a lot of forest cover in our hometown in Eldoret. There was a lot of forest cover actually in Kenya, and I think that was the most contributing factor to consistent patterns of rain in our country. So partly that is the cause, because if you go now to Cherangani Hills, it's almost done. If you go to Eldoret, you find a lot of blue gum trees, which are commercial.
Right.
The indigenous trees are actually
being cut down.
Yeah, being cut down. Even my father's home or my father's land, it used to be really forested. These days, everywhere is cultivated. But even the maize is not
Because
as productive as it was.
his sons cut the trees.
No, I think the population in the compound increased, and the economic need actually expanded, and the big land that time became small, because everybody had to do some economic activities here and there. So this is really a threat.
So it's a combination of very many things,
Yes.
including population growth,
Yes.
Poor management of the forest cover and the trees that we had, and all those. Now, as MD of the Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company, you are at that point where when there are no trees, there's no rainfall, there's no water.
There's no groundwater, yes.
There's no groundwater,
Yes.
and people are increasing.
Yes.
And the demand for water keeps increasing.
Exactly.
But first, introduce us to Eldoret Water and
So thank you very much. Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company is a water service provider. In Kenya, we have about 91 water service providers. So in every town, you'll find Trans-Nzoia Water Service, Water and Sanitation Company, Nairobi Water and Sanitation Company, Mombasa, Yeah. So we are a water service provider regulated by Water Service Regulatory Board from Nairobi here. And we are owned by the county. Like, for example, Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company, the principal shareholder of our company was Ngishu County Government, 99% shareholding. So that speaks to legal and policy changes since the coming in of the new constitution. So water is a concurrent function. So it's played by the national government as well as the county government. So for us, we do two functions. One, we supply water, and then also we work on our sanitation by ensuring that sewer line coverage in our hometown is adequate, and sanitation therefore goes high. So that's basically us. And if you look at what we implement, we are aligned to what is envisioned in the Vision 2030 on universal coverage when it comes to water and sanitation, like 100%. So if you look at the Vision 2030,
yes,
we have said by 2030, all Kenyans will be access to clean water. It's called potable water. Then in terms of sanitation, 80%, coverage. Now, if in our Katiba, water and sanitation is a human right. Actually, it's drawn. I think our Katiba drew that quality from the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, where it says water and sanitation is a human right. So basically, that is what we implement, and we ensure that people who live in urban areas have access to adequate water and sanitation. Yeah.
What geographical area do you cover? Is it just Eldoret town, or does it?
It's the former Eldoret municipality. So we have a population of about 500,000 Kenyans within the former Eldoret municipality.
How many of them have access to piped potable water?
It's 424,000, but we have water scarcity. So despite the fact that the line is going to 424,000, we have inadequate, because in Eldoret we require 60 million liters of water per day. Because of the population. Eldoret is like a transit town as well.
Yeah.
Many Kenyans going to Western Kenya, East Africa, Uganda, make a stop at Eldoret town. So the need is about 60 million liters of water. But currently we produce 41.3 million liters of water. So water goes to those pipelines on a rationalized basis so that we can be able to cover everyone. But out of the 41.3% million liters, we lose about 42%. It's called non-revenue water.
Okay.
Since I came, I think that's come to about at 6.
What does that mean, non-revenue water?
Non-revenue water is water that we process, but we cannot account in terms of billing.
I still don't understand.
It is, there's the water we process, and then we put it in the pipeline.
Yes.
Now,
And
as
then
it
you go-
goes, what we get at the end is less by 42%.
So where does it go? Where does our water go?
What that means is because our pipelines are old. For example, the first pipeline in Eldoret was laid in 1928. So sometimes we get bursts, leakages, but that's called physical losses. Then there's another one which is called commercial loss. Commercial losses are a result of illegal connection and water theft. So that is how we lose our water.
I can understand the
Okay.
physical. This commercial one,
So when we see these water bowsers running about, and the question is, where do these fellows get this water from in the case where there's water scarcity? Could this be directly related to that?
No, it's not, because you see, the water bowsers are actually coming in to intervene on areas where the water has not reached.
But where are they getting their water from?
Like, for example, for us, in the headquarters of Eldoret town, we have a big tank. So a lot of our water in the water bowsers are fetched from that tank, which is
So you
consistently
sell to them.
full.
So you sell to the bowsers?
No, it's our bowsers. Okay, we sell also. There is our bowsers, which
And then
we
there's commercial
used to
bowsers.
distribute, but also Kenyans come, those who don't have water, even from outside Eldoret municipality, they come with water bowsers, and we sell at the current tariff of Eldoret, which is 68 shillings per meter cubed of water.
Okay. What is the source of the water? So we're looking at a need in Eldoret, for example, of
Yes.
60 million litres
Yes.
daily.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What is the source of this 41 points, however much
So we
that you're
have-
getting currently?
Yes, we have various catchment areas or watersheds. Like, for example, Cherangane is the source of water to our Moiben Dam. It's called Chebara in Elgeyo Marakwet. It is in Marakwet West constituency. And then we have another one at Kaptagat, which is called Elagarine. And we have Elagarine Dam. And then we have the Two Rivers Dam, which was built in 1966. So these are the dams which feeds. We also have Kipkaren Dam. As you fly into Eldoret, if you are landing from the east, on the left you will see Kipkaren Dam. So that's another one. So these are the sources. So basically, our water is coming from Kaptagat catchment area or watershed, and then Cherangani watershed. That is the source.
Okay.
Those are the two main sources, actually. So if you go to Kaptagat, there's about 3,000 acres watershed, which is feeding into Eldoret. And if you go to Moiben, you will also see Cherangani Hills. But there's a lot of human activity, and that's the threat why we are actually been having the Climate Action Marathon for the last 4 years,
Right.
is to try to address what is happening at the water sources.
Okay. So then, what is happening at the water sources? Is there a direct relation between that and then this lack of 19 million litres of water per day?
Partly.
Okay.
Partly because you see what has happened, a lot of human activity is happening because of economic needs. The issue of forest has become one of the economic sources for, the development of the country. So you find that there are entrepreneurs who are dealing on timber-related businesses. So, and as a result of this, there is also the issue of, we can say poverty, and also lack of maybe clean energy, because the local people use firewood. I'm sure your mom, if they live in rural areas, they would be fetching firewood. And that is one area that really has led to the degradation of the forests. So you find that there is a lot of logging happening there. And then also the growth of Eldoret, commercial logging. So you find that if you go to Kenya Forest Service station in Marakwet West, you find a lot of confiscated posts which had been felled by some people, and they wanted to sell maybe in Eldoret illegally.
You have in existence 3 dams.
Yes.
Okay, there's a 4th one.
There's another Kipkaren, and there's also Keses Dam.
Yes.
5.
Now, even as we talk about these major projects, these are 130 billion shilling project and above. What other means or ways does the county encourage its citizens to harvest water? Because it rains.
Yes, I think that's another area which yes.
And if I were to go back to the annals of the Local Authorities Act and the laws of local authority, one of the requirements in the building code was you could not put up a structure without having
water harvesting
capacity or facility. You could not. I am not certain whether that requirement was removed, but since you are the water person and you look at all ways and means of ensuring that there's sufficient water from whichever source, tell us about water harvesting.
Actually, this is another area which we are going to talk about in the Climate Action Conference, because you realize that as we speak, as I've said, we don't have sufficient water in town. So the other way of supplementing is to ensure that we do harvest. And yes, indeed, there is that provision when you are constructing within the Eldoret municipality. So you have to make sure that your house has enough water harvesting, technologies. And you find that a lot of our guys who are doing construction actually have underground tanks. So it is an alternative because the other water is not sufficient. But of course, there are initiatives which are currently being done to ensure that we generate sufficient water within Eldoret.
You know what I'm going to ask you is, what is the capacity of the rainfall that Eldoret receives in a year? Because you have the measure for it. The reason why, you don't have to give me an accurate, what I'm asking is, if you need 60 million liters of water in Eldoret.
Per day.
Okay? When it rains to the point where there's a deluge. Water just sort of like flows and goes around. So I'm asking, how much of this water actually exists when it rains? So it gives you an idea of what the harvesting of water could do towards alleviating this particular problem.
Unfortunately, that area has not been quite developed in the country. I think there is even a government agency which has been created to sensitize on those areas. It's an area that I think there's a big opportunity, and in the upcoming conference, I think we'll be discussing, because really, we need to tap into this rainwater in preparation for the prolonged drought season. Like this year, the drought has really gone far. And I think that's another area that currently as Eldoret Water we are promoting. And that's just one part. The other part is we are currently improving on Two Rivers Dam. Actually, there is going to be a construction of Two Rivers Dam again, because what has happened, because of the economic activities in the watershed, a lot of soil actually has been carried to the dam, silting of the dam. So you realize as we speak today, Two Rivers Dam is dry. There's no water. Absolutely no water.
And this should be a permanent river.
It's a permanent river. Yes, it's Oceanic River actually. So it's a permanent river. But because of the demand, the water just comes and goes. So it can no longer hold any water at the moment. But that's what I'm saying. There's already a feasibility study done for the construction of or expansion of Two Rivers Dam. And as we speak, the Kipkaren Dam is actually being concluded. So all these are some of the key initiatives to ensure that there's enough availability of water in Eldoret town. There is also another aspect which has been forgotten for a very long time, and that is why His Excellency, our Governor, Jackson Mandago, initiated the Climate Action Marathon, which is now going to the 4th edition, and I will be inviting you to run with us on 10th April. The climate action now is to address the issue of afforestation, to bring back our forests. Because if you look at Kenya, we focus a lot more in infrastructure development in terms of building dams. But we are not concerned
with the source.
About the source as much. And I think the Climate Action Marathon and the Climate Action Conference is a call from Eldoret. We don't have to receive calls all the time from Nairobi. It's a call from Eldoret to Kenya. Right. To make a shift towards the conservation of watersheds and water catchment areas.
Peter, I think that, the relation between afforestation and then, lack of a vital resource such as water.
Yes.
We can't undermine the importance of it.
Yes.
Very clear. So where are the conversations in terms of, because one of the things that you mentioned, look, people are using trees as a fuel source.
Yes.
Right? And you're not going to ask them, to stop, because what are they going to do?
Yes.
And it's a major issue.
Actually,
right?
yeah.
So then how, and I really believe that that's where the conversation ought to be. Even as these trees are being cut down, we're talking about a dam that's empty,
Yes,
for
yes.
crying out
Yeah,
loud,
yeah.
A permanent river that has no water.
Yes.
Right? So isn't that where the conversation ought to be? That, look, even as we are cutting down this vital source, are we replenishing the earth? Questions like, how high is the water table in that area?
Yes.
Are people digging boreholes? Last week, we heard a story, we looked at a story of here in Nairobi, in Eastleigh, where the water table is almost diminished because people are digging boreholes. Everybody's digging a borehole. So where are the conversations in terms of that? To say, replenishing the environment in order to get this water flowing.
In fact, this is the conversation that we are starting. By the way, as we move forward, first of all, even as we discuss about conservation, we need to look at what are Kenya commitments. For example, under Sustainable Development Goals, the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, while you're talking about access to water and sanitation, you're talking about afforestation. First of all, even as we move, we have to change the conversation also to be about women, about children, and those people who are vulnerable in the society. Because if you look at the SDGs, the issue of water scarcity, the issue of lack of sanitation affects women, girls, children, and people, elderly people, and vulnerable people in the community when it comes to, that inadequacy. So this question is very important. And what we are doing as part of our integrated approach that we are going to be initiating, you look at this initiative in three contexts. It must be integrated, multi-sectoral, and sustainable. Now, this question is very important because what we are now going to do, because people need fuel or firewood. They don't have solar.
Yeah.
They don't have biogas. Now, what we are going to do in our integrated development plan for the next 10 years, which we will be initiating, and we want to thank development partners because we've received a lot of funding since we started the call. I will talk about it later. We just need to see how can we be able to have, for example, improved agriculture, whereby we practice maybe zero grazing, and then we support, those communities in terms of developing biogas, in terms of adopting solar, and even wind energy. If you go to the cliff at the end of Kaptakat Forest, where the catchment area for Eldoret is coming, there's a lot of wind. There's actually, the Kerio Valley. Because if you go to that cliff, you find that from there, water flows to Kerio Valley, while the rest flows to Eldoret town. There's a lot of wind coming. And I've never seen even a single
wind turbine.
Wind turbine, yes. So these are some of the conversations that if we invest in terms of renewable energy in that area, we should be able to assist even in our conservation initiatives, because you can plant a tree, but if there are no alternative sources of energy, wananchi will continue using the forest for their own survival.
Right.
Is that in your mandate as a water services company to promote all these things, or does it now start cross-cutting into the board that you work under? And how well are you working with? Which board are you under?
Currently, we are under the North Rift Water Works Development Agency.
Yes.
We are also under the county, and also we are under WASREB in terms of regulations. Yeah.
So now the North Rift are the
and
ones
under
who are
the
in charge
Ministry of Water and Sanitation. Yes.
North Rift are in charge of looking at water sources in all that area,
Development of infrastructure
and developing the infrastructure to bring water to the companies.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they also have a big role to play in knowing where the water is coming from.
Definitely, yes.
Are they involved in these conversations?
Yes. In fact, if you had me when I was talking about the integrated development plan for conservation of watersheds in the North Rift, because we are looking at it in that context, it means we have to seek partnerships. I said it must be integrated, multi-sectoral, and it must be sustainable, which means this approach we are taking is, because we are supplying water in Eldoret town, we feel it is part of our responsibility to ensure that we push the agenda of environmental conservation. And that is why, as I speak to you, we've been able to write to various development partners, ministries, including our mother ministry, Ministry of Water, Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Soon we are going to be launching with collaboration, because we have signed an agreement with the Nature Conservancy, and they are going to be giving us about 260 million Kenya shillings under Eldoret 10 water fund for the restoration of catchment areas in that area. So we are seeing that when it comes to issues, for example, of dairy improvement or agriculture improvement, we have to talk to the county government of Elgeyo Marakwet.
Yeah.
Our county government is at the forefront, is the leader in terms of now pushing this agenda. The Nandi County, because Eldoret's mandate goes far up to the Nandi County, a place called Olesos and Mosoriat. So even the fourth estate, you will realize that in Eldoret town, since the last 3-4 months, we've really engaged the fourth estate. We even have a media, a forum on water and sanitation in that region, which we initiated, because we feel that as we do our initiatives, the whole world needs to know, because it's part of contribution to the realization of Kenya's commitment under the Sustainable Development Goals, our Vision 2030, the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. So by doing so, we reach out to many, and they will come in terms of giving us technical, in terms of giving us financial, as well as human resource support. Yeah.
Take a break at this point. It's 29 minutes to 8, Kenya's biggest conversation. With us in the studio is Peter Kibet Arabiwot. He's the managing director of the Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Eldowas. We are talking about climate action, talking about the sources of the water that Eldowas needs to provide to the people. 500,000 residents that should be receiving water. 424,000 have access to pipes, but not all of them have access to water on a daily basis. And this is a big issue, and that's why Peter is here with us, talking about the Climate Action and Exposition Conference that will be taking place on the 8th of April in Eldoret town. Why is it important? That's what we're talking about. Keep it here for more conversations coming up shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
There are so many people peddling what is false, and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. They gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
he's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The rain's still coming down in Nairobi at 17, highs of 26 and lows of 16 today. We're looking at partly sunny conditions at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 15. It's cloudy at 15 in Eldoret, 25 will be the high and lows of 14 today. So that's Nyeri, and in Eldoret, mostly cloudy at 15. 25 will be the high and lows of 14. Raining in parts of Mombasa at 28, highs of 33 and lows of 26. While Malindi is cloudy at 27, we'll see highs of 33 and lows of 27. Kisumu mostly sunny at 21 this morning. 29 will be the high and lows of 20, while Kakamega is cloudy at 17. It'll go to highs of 28 and lows of 16. Kampala is mostly sunny at 21, highs of 26 and lows of 19, while it's raining in Dar es Salaam at 27, highs of 30 and lows of 24. It's sunny in Johannesburg at 14, highs of 23 and lows of 13, while it's still raining in Lagos at 28, highs of 33 and lows of 27. Raining as well in Kinshasa, 23 currently. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 31.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to SpiceFM.
All right, heavy traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're looking at in and outbound traffic that continues for some time. There are folks who've been stuck in traffic, it seems like quite some time through the night. The Eastern Bypass is a total mess, no movement. Folks have been stuck in traffic for the last 30 minutes. Traffic stretches all the way from Utawala to Cabanas. What's going on this morning is the question. We've not seen an accident or anything that stops traffic just yet. we are seeing that rush hour now, traffic at Chiromo has built up quite some, and construction is not helping at all. Neither are the rains. Mombasa Road, since last night up till now, still in the traffic. What's going on? Moving very, very slowly. Those are the questions that we're seeing coming out this morning. We're also seeing the Thika Superhighway quite packed. In and outbound traffic on Kiambu Road. It's building up at Chiromo, getting to past Riverside, out towards Wangari Maathai Way. Let's keep an eye on things, guys. It looks like it's going to be that Tuesday. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
biggest
Nairobi.
It continues with Peter Kibeta Rabiwat, Managing Director of Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company Limited. Remember, on the 8th of April, the Climate Action and Exposition Conference takes place at the Okoh Hotel in Eldoret town. Angela is a resident of Eldoret and says, one of your consumers, we should ask you why residents around Marriott area are not receiving the piped water, yet they get monthly bills.
She said that pipes were put up in 2010, but no water has ever come through. Everyone in that area has dug boreholes.
Yeah, actually, we are working to make sure that all the pipelines are actually tracked, and we check on the integrity of the same pipelines. What I know is that since that time, there's been a lot of constructions happening, like improvements of roads, like fiber optics. There's been opening of new roads, especially around that area. There are a lot of new roads which were actually opened. I'm not sure about it. I'm going to check it. I know I've been receiving a lot of calls from Annex. Marriott is towards Kapsabet. Kapsabet, it's the Eldoret Kapsabet route. And we'll be checking. One finding which I've actually found since I came, because I'm not a managing director who sits in the office, so I have my own overall, and I always go to the ground to see what's happening there. And I have found out that in areas including Simat, even Malindi, due to road constructions and also due to lack of effectiveness by the teams that time. Now we are trying to shape the effectiveness of the teams at the moment by ensuring even that, managing by moving around. We've realized that a lot of pipelines were cut off by contractors. In fact, currently we are pushing that a legislation is put in place on, we have Water Act 2016, but at the county level we need a Water Act so that some of these damages, in fact yesterday I was at the Water Service Regulatory Board, in our tariff there's need to be a provision on penalties for those guys who are carrying out construction, fiber optics, because I've realized since I came, we've been able to deal with over 50 cases of fiber optic guys or road construction who
busting pipes.
They actually cut off the pipes.
Wow.
Without even caring, and water runs down for hours.
So what should be the procedure, by the way, now that you've just gone into that? If somebody's working on an area that has pipes passing, should they first alert the company that we're
yes, in fact, we wrote to there's under the Ministry of Fiscal Planning at the county. There's a committee which normally approves works at the county. So Eldoret was not part of it. So we've requested that we need to be part of it as part of the county institution, so that now before anybody starts the construction, they seek a no objection or they seek approval from our office, so that now we can be able to show them where our pipeline is passing. What we have done as Eldoret Water, all our pipelines are under GPS.
Okay.
So we should be able to draw a map and tell them this is where our pipelines pass. And when they are on the ground and we've partnered together, we should be able to send an engineer to work with them very closely. So you realize some of these cases like that one, the pipeline could have already been disconnected and nobody knew about it or nobody took any action against it. Okay. So this is something that we are actually addressing. If they're receiving bills, I think it is only the standing charges, but the standing charges, we are actually getting rid of them so that we just focus on water consumed by the clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, back to the issue of water sources and water catchments. Some of these areas where the water is coming from, are they under your jurisdiction?
Yes.
For example, if we talk about Cherangani and Kaptagat.
Yes, partly they are under our jurisdiction, but as you said, we need to engage in a multi-stakeholder framework, whereby we have to really work very closely with Kenya Forest Service, the Water Towers Authority. We also have to work with the communities, because you realize that if you go to that region, every member of the community have actually fenced off, including the springs. Because if you go to Cherangani Hills, for example, Moiben, a place called Kabieko in Elgeyo Marakwet County, you realize that the massive Nzoia River, or the massive, because it starts as Moiben River, when it crosses to Moisbridge, as it goes to Western, it's called Nzoia River. It's very massive. The sources actually are small springs around Kabiego area. And you realize that...
in people's farms?
Yes, in people's farms. So you realize that people have actually fenced them off. Trees around that area have actually been cut off. You see an introduction of commercial trees like blue gum, which actually depletes the water. So normally, our catchment areas will be secure if we use indigenous trees, because those are the ones which safeguards the watershed. Yes.
How come... Okay, is it not possible to bring these water sources under government?
It is under the Katiba. Actually, it is under the government. I think it is an issue of proper management. You remember there are areas which are called riparian areas.
Yes.
From a source of water, people should stay away 30 meters. It's just about implementation of laws. I think Kenya, we have the best laws. It's about implementation of laws, and also it's about the letter and spirit of the Katiba. Because if it is about public participation, if these citizens are educated, if they are sensitized, if their economic power is enhanced, if their dairy is improved, they should be able to care. Because one of the feedbacks I get when I go to these communities, they feel like they have been left out. Everywhere, go to anywhere in Kenya catchment areas, go to Mau, go to Abadeas. You'll find that citizens around that area will be saying, we are the source of water, for example, we have no water. We are the source of water, we have no support. So, or we are not being engaged.
There's no incentive to take care of this water source.
So I think we just need to sharpen our implementation. I've been working in the public service for now, maybe my 16 year of working, maybe 10 years to 11 years has been in public service. The rest have been in the private sector. And one of the opportunities I've seen in government is being able to bring the private sector mentality, efficiency and effectiveness and timeliness in terms of the execution of what we have planned, and passion as well. And then also looking at Kenya as a patriotic citizen, saying that we need to ensure that we use the least money to create the highest impact, because the resource is scarce. So sometimes, as a development economist, we are told that the country doesn't have enough, let's say, funding. But at the end of every financial year, there are funds remaining not spent. So I think there need to be some kind of injection of a bit of
efficiency
and effectiveness, so that we can be able to address, and then also a balance between politics and development.
But Peter, there's a word that you mentioned during the break, sustainability.
Yes.
We seem to have this big push for what we're calling development, new swanky projects, and they all seem to cost billions of shillings. And yet, we've had projects that were addressing the same issues, cost effective, cost efficient, and they existed. They did not need to be invented. They just needed to be sustained improved upon. And like the water pans.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
The issue of harvesting water that we spoke of.
Yes.
Now, if these simple things that we can do are not enforced, even when we have these huge projects that we're speaking of, and we build even 3 or 4 more dams, and we're able to do you see us actually making any progress? Because if the mindset is the same, it doesn't matter how many dams in my mind we build.
Yep.
If we can't take the steps to ensure that at the level where we ourselves can responsibly contribute to this progress we're talking about, and we're waiting for someone else to create a big project in order to help solve the situation, 10 dams later, we'll be exactly where we are.
I agree with you. We need to be smart in the manner in which we carry out our implementation. Currently, I talk about, implementing our projects in a smart manner and then ensuring an A to Z of these projects. Because I think even the conversation has changed. In the next year or two, Kenya should not be focusing on heavy infrastructural investments. What we need to focus on currently is to ensure that we create the sufficient economic push to be able to utilize those infrastructures which are available. Like, for example, I think in the water sector, that conversation is changing. Yes, we are building dams. But even with the small dams and the water plants you're talking about, I think if we make a mega investment and implement the government policy on 2 billion trees, in this planning period up to, I think, this year, or in the next 5 years, if we are able to ensure that we push our forest cover to 10%, because in East Africa, if you look at the forest covers, Kenya is the lowest. I think if you go to Uganda, if you go to Tanzania and the rest of the East African countries, they are above 25% in terms of forest cover. And that's why if you go to Uganda, you still find, a lot of, you find a lot of Kenyan manufacturers actually have shifted to Uganda when it comes to, planting of, inputs to their manufacturing plants. So I think as we speak today, the next push, the next allocation should be to focus on making sure our catchment areas are all restored, making sure that Kenya forest cover not only reaches 10%, I think we need to go to 20%. If we go to that percent, water supply will not matter whether you have a big dam or a small dam, because it's going to be sustainable. Is going to be there. So I think there is need to be a paradigm shift
in the way we think.
In the way we think and in the way we actually execute our programs and projects.
You talked about various partnerships that you're forming with different organizations, development partners, and state agencies. Tell us about them and what they are about.
You see, you cannot. One thing as part of addressing the inadequacy in terms of resources, you see, if you look at the country, we have enough. Yes, well, we have enough human capital. We have issues of finances. As I said, when you're implementing projects, there is need to be partners. Like us as Eldoret Water, we generate our own income. Our own income is not enough, to move our water connection and sewerage connection to the next level. So we will need support from other development partners. Even in the conservation effort, I think in our tariff, conservation the value for conservation in our tariff is about 2 shillings per cubic meter. So that might not be adequate. In fact, we'll be negotiating to push it to maybe 5 shillings per cubic meter of water supplied, so that the citizen can actually be able to contribute to the future of their town. Because I feel if we do not do something right now, the future of our town will not be bright in terms of development. So you realize, even for example, in the Eldoret Return Water Fund that we have established, it is a public-private kind of partnership fund, whereby we have our input as Eldoret Water. The Nature Conservancy has given us 260 million Kenya shillings. Now we are reaching out to manufacturers and business community in Eldoret and beyond. Like, for example, we have companies in Eldoret who are producing food products and beverages. They use water as a raw material. So it is in their interest to ensure that they contribute to this fund, either by contributing seedlings or by contributing human capital to go and plant. Like now we will be planting trees on 9th and they will be part of it. There are those who do timber-related products, others are textile, and they use water in volumes. If you go to every of these companies, warehouses, you find huge water tanks. Because water is a very important input in the manufacturing process. So, and that's why we are appealing to even locals in that area, even to plant trees within their compounds. So it's an all of us campaign, an all of us, initiative, where we even want the fourth estate to be part of it, so that we can create. And I like what you asked.
Muga.
I like what Muga asked. Sustainability, because after making rounds around Eldoret water catchment areas, a lot of the citizens told me that you guys, you come and plant trees as camera issue, you want to be seen that you are planting, even demonstrate, but you're not caring about the next day. And what I found out that was lacking is we are lacking partnership with the community. Being able to have them to own, and even looking at this issue of conservation as an economic activity. And what we have done as Eldoret Water, we've been able to adopt some tree nurseries in Chebara. We have done others in Kaptagat up to Eldoret, where we have told our youth, our women. You find that most of the tree nurseries belong to women groups or youth groups. So we have actually told them that we will give them the expertise to ensure that those tree nurseries are nurtured, and then we'll buy the trees from them. And then we'll have them also to plant and to take care of it as a condition for us buying in the next year.
Right.
So in so doing, we will be achieving, economic empowerment. We'll also be achieving responsibility and ownership.
Sure.
And I think this is the partnership that we are actually trying to drive and do it in a very different way. Yeah.
Who's responsible then for advocacy and education in the community? Because here you've said obviously that we support Eldoret Water will support people to give you the expertise and such. But then in terms of the importance of knowing, for example, that if you're cutting a tree down, for example, for your fuel resource, that there is the following action of replacing that tree until it becomes habitual in the minds of people that if we're going to take, we must put back. It will probably shorten the process of then having these sustainable resources.
Exactly.
But then who's responsible for making sure that it is ingrained in the minds of all of us that, one of the only ways in which we're going to have, like the question Angela has asked, water running in our taps on a regular basis, forest cover beyond, how many percent that we need it, is by replenishing what we've taken from nature. How do we get that as a part of thinking?
Actually, thank you very much for that question, and thank you for talking about the running taps. Later on, I'll talk to you about Linda Maji Mitaani and Linda Maji Viwandani, one of our initiatives. Actually, what we are doing, maybe I can say, what we are doing is part of Linda Maji, an initiative we call Linda Maji Mtaani and Linda Maji Viwandani. You are spot on. We need to have opinion leaders or people who will be advocating and urging influencers, what we call influencers, who will be influencing the community and Kenyans towards that direction to think that we all need to be responsible for our future, because we might fell down trees today, but we're hurting the future of our children and their children. So you see, and that's why if you look at this conference, it's quite unique. Actually, we've been able to carry out our campaigns. I know we've partnered with, for example, institutions like Kenya Association of Manufacturers, the Chamber of Commerce, faith-based organizations, and churches. In fact, I've held a lot of conversations with church leaders because churches are quite influential as well when it comes to issues of conservation.
Indeed.
And we've been able to reach out to all faiths. And in fact, during the conference, we've invited all of them. And we've said we are going to use all means to ensure that even the faith-based organizations, pastors, imams, are the ones who speak the same language in churches. When they visit, radio stations, they also speak about the same. Politicians, we are also trying to change the mentality of politicians. And when I get a chance to speak in the media like today, I always tell our citizen, when a politician now comes to campaign, can you ask them to mention something about climate change? Are they aware? Do they understand? Let it be a topic in terms of even vetting and electing our future leaders. And that's why we're saying the future leaders of today and tomorrow are leaders who are concerned about climate change. They are leaders who have initiatives around climate action. Because you realize also they are very important and they are very influential. In fact, when it comes to forest conservation, you find that a lot of the guys who de-incentivize citizens or urge citizens to continue doing what they are doing in the forest are politicians.
And all.
They are politicians for votes.
Live here,
those kind of things. Even those who sometimes tell, citizens not to pay water, that it is COVID time, are actually politicians. And in the end, they hurt institutions. So this is a conversation which I also think, and we're going to have a media conference soon in Eldoret, so that we can also pass data and information to our journalists, so that they can write, they can talk about, and they can create platforms for this kind of discussions. We don't have to wait for conferences in Nairobi. I believe we can start from our rural Kenya.
Do you have a program that reaches out to school children?
That is another one. In fact, we've been able to visit Moigal's SOS Children's Home in Eldoret. And we went to Moigal's and we found out that they have a teens green belt movement where they are setting up tree nurseries. In fact, in our roadshow we did of Linda Maji in Eldoret, we actually invited all of them, and we want them to be part of this Linda Maji Mtani, because I was saying, if we educate our children on conserving and taking care of water, they should be able to put pressure to their parents, because we realize some of these parents are the ones who have done illegal connections in Eldoret. And they're using our water free. That's why we are saying Linda Maji Mtani. And we have actually found a lot of them. We've been able to find people who have done illegal connections, pastors, teachers, headmasters, people in government.
Have you asked why they do this?
I think it's just convenience. People don't like,
because they don't
when you get a free thing.
But Peter, do you think
most of them tell me they don't know?
If there was water running in my tap,
they say they are not conscious.
But if there was water running in my tap, Peter, why would I go and seek an illegal connection?
No, but let me tell you, in some areas of Eldoret, near the source, like a place called Kipkorgot and Chepkanga, people get water daily. But that's where the most theft is happening.
So how does this theft happen?
You see what happens? In Eldoret, we have about 15,000 zero bills. Some of those zero bills, we have technology we have actually acquired as elders, where we can detect how water is flowing. And you find that there's a T-junction before the meter.
So before that T-junction...
circumvention takes place.
So they put a T-junction, and then they put a pipeline to behind their houses. And before the meter, there is a valve. So they close it, and then they allow the water to go. Near the man, they open it. You come and see it is one unit, yet it is a huge building, or it is even someone who is doing irrigation.
But can this happen if it isn't with the connivance of people who work in the water ministry?
That's what I'm saying. This issue,
and
actually,
this company.
Actually, if you look at the impact report, a few of our staff actually engage in some of these things.
I wouldn't say a few, because there are those who physically do it and are actively involved, and there are those who know it happens but do nothing about it. So they might as well be involved.
I agree. In fact, that's why we are saying governance issues also is very important in our conservation efforts. Issues of good governance, and that is why as Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company, we actually joined Global Compact. We are the only water service provider in Kenya who has joined the United Nations Global Compact because of 4 reasons. One of the reasons, and this is something I am passionate about and serious about, and I'm trying to change the culture of our consumers, some of those consumers who are unscrupulous, or some of our staff who are not honest. Number 1, environmental conservation is a principle of the United Nations Global Compact. Number 2, sustainability, and that's why we are looking at even powering our pumping systems using solar. And then number 3, good working conditions for workers, to incentivize them, to know that they are providing this public good to Kenyans, and they have to be people of high moral standing. That is what we are driving. And then number 4, anti-corruption measures. These are some of the things now we are currently doing. We have done a lot of work around them.
Right.
And we are changing the culture of Kenyans in that town. And we want to be the pace setters in the Republic in terms of ensuring that we do the right things always at the right time and provide the public good. But of course, there are consequences. If you are found stealing water, or if you are found with these illegal connections, there are consequences. If you are a household, the penalty is 30,000, and the amount of water consumed for as long as you connected. But we are trying to be a win-win. We are doing 2 years behind. If you are less than 2 years, we will go specific.
We'll go specific to
if it's a commercial entity, we do 100,000 penalty, and then also we do for as long as you connected. And we're trying. And by the way, a lot of Kenyans we've been able to get who are doing this kind of illegal connections.
Peter, Lamek says you have articulated the issues very, very well. He hopes that what you've been saying can actually also be put into action so people don't have dry taps in Eldoret anymore. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for sensitizing us about climate action and the conference that's coming up on the 8th of April at Okoh Hotel.
Thank you very much.
And everybody is welcome, right?
Thank you. Everybody, we have actually invited, we are going to have 250 people in the conference room. We'll have an exhibition, but the rest of Kenyans who will not make it or who will not get invitation cards can watch us live on KTN News. They can also follow us online on Facebook, Twitter, and various social media platforms.
Asante sana, Peter.
Yeah, thank you
all
very
the
much.
best on that.
Yeah.
Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
NC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has accused the leadership of Azimio la Umoja, led by ODM leader Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta, of blackmailing political aspirants into joining the outfit. Speaking in Kakamega during his third day of campaign in the region, the Kenya Kwanza principal said Raila had conned leaders to defect from their parties into joining Azimio, to only later leave them in the cold. He said Raila cannot be trusted to lead the country if he could not keep his word on small party matters. A National Assembly Minority Leader John Mbadi has dropped out of the Homa Bay gubernatorial race, paving way for the ODM party's presumed favourite Gladys Wanga. Mbadi, in a statement, said his decision was a compromise as he yielded to ODM's national interest and those of Raila Odinga, the party's presidential flag bearer in the August 9th general election. Mbadi did not mention whether he will defend his Suba South MP seat in the August 9th polls. Now, over 70,000 residents of Nakuru County have been issued with title deeds in the past 1 month during the ongoing titling program initiated by President Uhuru Kenyatta 2 years ago. Governor Lee Kinyanjui have expressed concern that a high number of land disputes pending in Nakuru courts are slowing the program meant to issue title deeds to at least 100,000 landowners by end of the year. Kinyanjui indicated that the title deeds had been given out to landowners within Kuresoi South, Naivasha, Rongai, Njoro, Subukia, Bahati and Gilgil sub-counties. He added that a further 20,000 title deeds will be issued to landowners in Mai Mahiu and Longonot in Naivasha sub-county and in Kabatini, Kithioro and Dundori locations within Bahati sub-county by June this year. Other beneficiaries will be drawn from Polepole, Salga, Muchorwe and Kibunja villages within Subukia, Rongai, Kuresoi South and Molo sub-counties respectively. Nairobi County Majority Leader Abdi Guyo has lost 4 family members in a road accident at Mile Saba area on the Meru-Isiolo Road, according to a police report on the 6:30 p.m. incident yesterday. The vehicle was heading to Isiolo from Nairobi when one of the tires burst, causing the car to veer off the road. The deceased have been identified as Hassan Ibrahim Borana, aged 43 years, Fatuma Hassan Borana, 39 years old, and 2 children aged 14 and 10 years. The bodies of the deceased were moved to Isiolo Referral Hospital mortuary. Our thoughts and prayers to the family. Kenyans are sending each other about 12.25 billion shillings daily on the mobile money transfer platform as more subscribe to the service, mainly for convenience. Latest data from the Communications Authority of Kenya indicates that the value of person-to-person cash transfers on the mobile money platform increased 4.2% to 1.13 trillion shillings during the last 3 months of last year from 1.08 trillion shillings, according to Communications Authority of Kenya. The number of mobile money subscriptions between October and December 2021 grew marginally by 1.8% to 35.2 million from 34.5 million in September. The data also indicates that Kenyans are spending 14.21 billion shillings daily buying goods and services from businesses that have a mobile money pay bill or buy goods number. In addition, businesses are on a daily basis transferring 9.79 billion shillings to customers. Internationally, and Bangladesh has shut the largest private school for Rohingya refugees. This is according to officials in a further blow to the educational prospects of thousands of children struck in vast camps in the country's southeast. Bangladesh has been sheltering about 850,000 Rohingya refugees from neighboring Myanmar since a military offensive in 2017 that the United States this month designated as genocide. Since December, Bangladeshi authorities have been shutting down schools set up by Rohingya, and late last week it closed Kafuri schools, saying the schools must be operated within the provided guidelines. The school was set up by Mohab Ullah, a prominent Rohingya community leader who was gunned down in September allegedly by a Rohingya militant group that is accused of murdering opponents in the camp. The private school, funded by teachers and better-off refugee families, taught around 600 older pupils the same curriculum as it taught in Myanmar, with the hopes that the students will one day return home. And Finland's national railway operator has suspended operations between Helsinki and St. Petersburg in Russia, closing the rail link between Russia and the European Union. VR, the operator, said it had been told by the Finnish state it was no longer appropriate to run the service known as the Allegro in light of sanctions imposed on Russia after its invasion of Ukraine. Russian railways said in a short statement that they were aware of the Finnish decision due to sanctions. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aceto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Absolute madness on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're looking at in and outbound traffic, especially, and that Maritime stretch moving very slowly, spilling over a little bit onto North Airport Road today. But we're looking at it coming way past the Way Bridge today, out then towards General Motors. Don't forget, at the ICD route, you can use that and go towards the bypass. We're also seeing a spot of traffic on the southern bypass this morning, but nothing too crazy at the moment. Let's keep an eye on things and see what opens up later on. All right, eastern bypass, absolutely crazy, and that started really early. We're also looking at Langata Road that has piled up some. Industrial area, Lunga Jogo Road, heading out towards Landis and then towards the Kamkunji roundabout. That's quite something this morning. Railo Dingo Way, then spilling over to Gong Road, also continues. Chiromo, absolute mess, guys, and it's connecting with Wangari Maathai Way. We're also looking at that going towards the Thika Superhighway all the way through to Survey. The rain is not helping matters. Things are slowing down considerably. We're asking you to be very careful even as you traverse these Nairobi streets. And then talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let us know where you might be stuck or where you find a good route to share with folks this morning. Text as well. 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 8 minutes after 8 on the 29th of March 2022. Happy Tuesday wherever you're tuned in today, whether you are listening to us on Spice FM or you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or watching us on KTN Home, where we'll be live for the next 1 hour. We have a new guest in the studio. Before we introduce him, time for the day's proverb.
Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it.
Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it.
Big because surely it needs to be of a certain size for the tethering to actually take place. Strong so that it isn't uprooted, because the cow isn't going to be stationary. You may have a rope on its foot or around its neck, but it will continue moving. In fact, the only thing that stops it is when it feels a tug, either on the foot or on the neck. Then it stops. And a cow is a strong animal. So if the tug is powerful and that particular tree or seedling isn't strong enough, it will certainly be uprooted.
It will move.
And then it will become food.
Okay. But then also make sure that the tree is not too big, because half the rope will be on the trunk.
Eric, that is an extremely valid point, which means get a longer rope.
Yeah.
Yes. But remember what I said earlier on, my experience as a young lad looking after cows, there are little shrub-like vegetation that look spindly and weak. I found them to be very strong. You couldn't uproot it, and if you tethered a cow to it, the cow would go nowhere. And yet it's hardly 2 feet long.
Yep.
So I took the view, think of this proverb, that particular tree or that particular vegetation was big according to its size and also strong. Yes, it didn't need to be 6 feet tall or beyond to be big.
Thank you very much. Only when a tree is big and strong.
Yeah, only then can you tether a cow to it.
Can you tether a cow to it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's introduce our guest. He is a journalist, a political analyst, and very many things I'm sure that he'll tell us. David Makali joins us in the Situation Room. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here, finally. We've been wanting to have you on the show for a while, and you've been wanting to be here also for a while.
Yeah, finally we meet.
Yes. Finally you're here.
Correct, yeah.
So, journalist, you're also a political analyst. What else do you do?
Well, let me say I operate in the political space.
Okay.
I do strategy, I do communications. That is the public side of things. But I have my private end of things. I have interests in entertainment, hospitality, which is something I've done for years. But that is not my public face.
Yeah, that's the private side of David.
That is my business and private side of things, yes.
In this political space, it must be a very busy season for you at this point. And not just now, but over the last, say, very many months. As we look and as we head towards 2022, as political alignments, start taking shape, as conversations take place, as citizens start looking at who they want to elect into leadership. But if you were just to look at the current crop of leaders and you give them a scorecard on various levels over the last 4 years, from national to devolved units, how would you say our political leadership is doing? How is it taking us?
Well, one can say in a nutshell, overall, I think this country is not making much, it's not making many strides in terms of changing the nature, the scope, the profile of our leadership. The things we complained about 10 years ago are still the same things we complain about. So I don't know whether it's because we are not electing a different caliber of leaders or we are naturally pessimists who will never get satisfied with any kind of leadership we elect. Because regardless, even if we elect you, Latiff, today as the governor of Nairobi, it will not take you 1 year before you're unpopular with the huge chunks of the populace or the electorate. And I think it's a developmental stage, I would put it that way. We are people with so many needs and wants that nobody elected into public office is likely to assuage or satisfy those needs within the timelines we operate in the electoral cycle. So we'll always have this discontent. I mean, people elect you, within a short time you're unpopular. The person who was before you, they want that person back. So it's a revolving door of politics.
So is our issue then the voter, or is it the leadership?
I think it's both. The voter is, skeptical, disgruntled. The leader is trying to satisfy the needs of the people, which are overwhelming because you never have the capacity to actually deal with these needs immediately. So it is like that. But progressively, we look at the nature of our governance. I don't think we've improved much. I mean, we have legislation. We have tried to implement the legislation. We still have gaps, the same corruption stories, mismanagement of our, institutions is still ongoing. So I don't know whether we're ever going to get out of this trench, so to speak. I'm a pessimist. But I think we have... there is hope, but...
if my history serves me right, there was a time you actually... decided to wade into the waters of politics and present yourself to this motley collection of citizens we call the voter. Okay?
Yes.
You must have had a plan, you must have had an idea, and you must have at least in your mind there was something you wanted to do to change this very thing that we're talking about and which you've written about and spoken about.
Yeah.
What did you think you were going to do which was different, which would bring a change?
It is just to provide what I would call honest, genuine leadership, principled management of public affairs, which is what lacks across the board. And we advise, we strategize, we talk to these leaders behind the scenes, and I've worked with a broad range of these leaders. In fact, I don't think there's any politician I've not worked with in the political arena over the last 20 years. And you sit in the kitchen, you sit in the strategy rooms, you do all these things. You hope that when they get into office, they're going to actualize some of those aspirations. It never happens.
Why?
I don't know, Bana. You don't have to help us here. Because
David knows exactly why it doesn't happen.
I think the challenges of office, or being in office, are so enormous. I mean, I have a crop of people we worked with in the civil society for years. The Kibwanas, Rengos. Rengo was always a politician. I mean, there are people who have been in the civil society who have gone into government. We held the same views and aspirations. When they got into government, the achievement was not that great because I think they were overwhelmed by the environment of politics in this country. You say you'll not be corrupt, you are fighting corruption. When you go to seek elective office, it overwhelms you because you're forced to give out money, because without money, nobody's going to vote for you. So it's a toxic electoral and governance environment that is keeping us locked down.
So
David, we need, and when I went in there, I was very forthright. I said, I'm going to write on my ideas, on my resume as an advocate for good governance or human rights and all these things. I got in there, man. It's a swamp.
So, David, are you saying
I
that
pulled back.
the politics, because look, politics exist everywhere, everywhere in all countries, in all governments, politics exists. However, there's still folks who get into these positions of leadership, and they're able, even if it is one thing, they're able to do one thing well, and you can see the results of that. Would you say here specifically and uniquely? Well, maybe not necessarily uniquely, but specifically, then is politics a hindrance to good governance?
Yes. If politics is about, I don't want to go to the academic one of who gets what, where, all that. But it is a balance of various interests, the stakes that the public have in your position, if you're a governor, or in the resources which are allocated to that you manage, and how to divide these resources to apply to the people's needs. Now, that's where the complexity comes, because the demands overwhelm the capacity to serve those needs. And therefore, you find you're compromising here. People want jobs, for example. Some of them don't have qualifications, but they demand jobs from you. You end up being forced to give jobs to people who may not merit, because you have to assuage certain considerations, ethnic, regional, and all these things. And so everyone is pulling at this small cake, and you end up with, you have to be Solomonic to decide how will you satisfy everybody and yet remain on the straight path of being incorruptible,
because if you're
being
not
fair, being just.
Because if you're not assuaged, then you commit political suicide.
Yeah, because if you don't do those things, your tenure will be very short. That's why people are always getting in and out. Then they try somebody else, they find this one is worse than the one we had. Let's bring back that. And you are seeing so many people who lost in the last races coming back to take power in these elections. Because people don't know what they want. If they decided this is what we want a leader who is not corrupt, who focuses on the public needs and and serves them well and manages our resources properly, you will not survive long. A few will survive. I'm not saying it's a zero-sum game, but there will be a few who will survive, but majority will suffer the consequences of this kind of
David, I am of the view that people actually know exactly what they want. They do.
Yeah.
But I'm also of the view that our political system is more a test of character, a test of who the person actually is. Because people say they want to be involved in active politics.
Yeah.
Then you're presented with what it actually is.
Yes.
Now.
Do you go in or not?
Precisely now.
Yes.
There are those who say, I understand, I know myself, I can't be involved in this. You step back. It's a step. There are those who get in and get swallowed up. There are a few who get in there and don't get swallowed up, and it's a constant battle. A few know how to play the games, understand the rules by which this particular game is played, and they actually survive and even get to do a few things. But the problem is there are not many.
Yeah, and if you look at them closely, they are breaking some of their principles, the things they believed in, about governance and so forth. I mean, very few governors or MPs will escape the charges of corruption or involvement in, embezzlement of funds or really underhand deals, because the electorate, as I've said, have these expectations on their leaders, which are not consistent with good governance and democracy. So you end up being forced to do things which are against even your conscience or your own beliefs
David,
to survive.
You know why I differ?
Now, that's why if you don't want to do those things, Stay out of politics.
Let me tell you why I differ with you on that particular issue. Differ on just that little point. Everything else I agree with you.
Yeah.
You see, what then is leadership if you believe that the way to do things is to succumb to the whims of the people? You may know what people want.
Yes.
But must you do it the way they wanted to achieve what you know very well they want?
You may not do so, but I've just said that the caveat to that is that you will not last long. You can go. I have always said the day I get elected, I'm going to do the things I believe in. If I'm going to be a governor, an MP, anything I'm going to be elected to or appointed to, I'll do the right thing. If it means I'll have to serve only one time and go, so be it. That's the decision I made. Those who want to prolong their stay, because you may not achieve some of the things you want to do within that period. So you say, maybe I'll have to, bend here and there so that I can prolong my time in order to get sufficient time to accomplish some of the things I want to do.
Yep.
Because if I'm straight, hard, and fast, strong, I will not survive beyond this period. And that is the compromise you have to make. You have to make that decision. But I always say, well, you don't have to be there for 10 years. You can do 5 years, and we remember you for doing something for 5 years. If you look at this government, for example, there are things which they have made steps forward and then retreated because of pressure or political convenience. Okay, look at what Michuki did during his term in fixing the Matatu situation in the city.
It was a menace.
And country.
Not
a situation, it was a menace.
Yes, it was.
But then the government receded on those steps which they had taken. Look at the chaos that the boda sector has brought. It's public knowledge. Boda people, they are useful, they work, they do their thing. But there is no adherence to the law, clearly. But do you see, how many boda people, even before this incident happened, had complied with the law? The police will not ask the boda, but they'll stop the guys who are driving vehicles.
Yes.
Is the law being applied across the board? So because they know once they touch that sector, it has political consequences. So these compromises are what bring the country down. If we have an administration that says, we're going to do these things right, take it or leave it. And I've seen this done in other countries. If you go to Rwanda here, there's order on the roads. You don't see policemen chasing people around. Indeed. One cop is standing at a junction, just watching the vehicles. And you can do that without having to deploy so many policemen. And then you just pick the plates and you digitize the traffic system. Those plates are taken to NTSA. Those vehicles are grounded. For 3 months, the vehicle won't be found on the road for breaching traffic rules. So, we're just not up to it.
So
but
is it leadership?
Serious leadership to do it.
Is it leadership or is it the people? Because I'm hearing you saying very many things. There's the demands of the electorate. They elect you and they expect this, and the other. Yeah. And yet you had a conversation with them by the time they were electing you. Yes. You created the impression that you could deliver. Yes. I will deliver.
Yes.
And then the electorate has this, what you said, there's a mismatch of demand versus your capacity to actually meet those demands and deliver.
Yes.
Is the problem then the David McCulloughs and Eric Latiffs who want to seek positions of leadership? Or is it the David McCulloughs and Eric Latiffs who are the voters?
It is the voter. The biggest problem actually is the voter. They push their leaders to do those things. Corruption thrives because the politicians must find resources to sustain their politics. Because the politics demands, the people demand things of you which are not in your JD. Because the roles of an MP are very clear, legislate, oversight, and represent. But you go back home, MPs have to shoulder everything. Now, where do they get the resources to do those things expected of them? Their personal resources, that's not anywhere in the law.
But David...
So they have to be corrupt to look for resources to come and feed or supply the needs.
In order for them to have some
But who
longevity
created the impression that,
that
the MP had this job to do?
Sorry?
Where did it begin? Where did this impression that MP...
Where was this chicken before it became an egg? Yes.
Also, of course, there are things that the politicians do to endear themselves to the electorate to get elected. And so they should continue with that trajectory when they get elected. So
that's why I talked about character.
It is cycling.
You see, look, you know full well that you may have aspirations as to what you want to do. And then you get the position, you realize what I thought needed to be done to get this is very different from the reality of the situation. Very, very different. Now, do you think it's incumbent upon you to go back and tell the people, folks, when I wanted this job, I said I was going to do this. It can be done. But it can't be done exactly as I told you.
Yes.
I am saying that the economical manner in which we choose to tell the truth,
yes,
the economical manner in which we choose not to engage the public in telling them, folks, these things, this one can't happen. Not the way you want it. It can happen, but it can happen this way. So do you want us to do it your way? Because in reality, the moment, for instance, even now, when you're not an MP, given what you've done, you know full well what it requires to get these things done. Now, the common mwananchi may not know that. In fact, usually they don't know what it takes.
They don't know what it takes.
I know this because I was discussing the issue of a road with my member of parliament, and he explained to me the processes. He had said, this road, this one.
If you elect me.
No, he was elected. Now that I'm here,
I'll fix it.
in the 2 years, 2 years went by, I asked him, we had a funeral, I asked him, Mheshimiwa, this road.
No, now that he lied to get elected.
He did, but what he didn't, when he told me the story, yes, money had been allocated for that road. Tendering had been done. The contractor had been identified. Then somewhere along the line, money got diverted elsewhere, so everything came to a halt. According to what he told me. I believed him, because I had some understanding of how these things work. But what he was telling people at the funeral, because somebody shouted and I said,
Bara, bara.
You will start seeing earth movers here next week. Okay? Now, what am I saying? The test of character is that. Are you willing to say, folks, the situation...
You know,
as we had envisioned,
things have changed a bit. Let's adjust our
Or
expectations.
you don't tell people in public because somebody may stone you, okay? But before you get there, these opinion leaders in the community, we all know them, the rabble rousers. Tell them, guys, this thing is not going to work this way. The reason why it's not going to work is because of A, B, C, D. What am I saying? I'm saying there are conversations that can be had which will introduce our people to the truth.
Yeah.
But the magic thinking of, I, the Mheshimiwa, will do this, it's the politicians who encourage it. You can have an honest conversation with your MCAs who talk to people directly. You can have an honest conversation with leaders, but we don't. You still want to have this conversation of, I am going to do this and it can be done. In fact, so-and-so hasn't done it because he's useless.
The assumption here,
Yes,
Citi,
yes.
is you're assuming that just because you've come and told people the truth, they will then look at you and say, this is a very honest man. Actually, let's just listen to him.
Actually, it doesn't matter what they think. Let me explain to you why I'm saying this. The question, that's why I asked the question, is it a question of leadership? Is it a question of following? When you succumb to the whims of the people in its naked form, you are no longer a leader, you are a follower. A leader ought to be able to put their foot down in a certain position and say, folks, you're not going to like what I'm about to tell you.
But this is the reality.
But actually, this is what it is.
You'll be out.
Precisely.
5 years.
Precisely.
Gone.
They can even try and impeach you if they want. The reason why people go in and then go out is because people think this guy is useless, he's not helping us. Then they bring somebody else. Whoa, wait. The definition of uselessness had not been. Now this is the guy who is genuinely useless.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the truth of the matter is that a lot of civic education needs to be done in this country to align aspirations of the people and the performance or the job descriptions of the people they elect, so that we know we're electing you to go and do this. And I think that MPs or any elected leaders should have these conversations after they get elected, so that we can bring the reality down to the people and tell them, look, this is my job. This is what you've elected me to go and do. These are your expectations. But they are not expectations of me. It is your expectations. We can work together to achieve those. But assess me on the basis of the performance of my job description, which is A, B, C, D. But, people are not there. Because, as I said, poverty and rampant desperation and all this means people push needs on anyone else. Your relatives will push things on you because you're successful in that community. And they think you are obliged to help them. So we have to try and educate the public gradually that, the government does this for you. This is your business to handle.
But even now, you're not a representative as in the elected variety of a leader, but you are a leader. People will still come to you for help.
Yes.
And they'll come to you in large numbers.
African socialism.
Yes, like you who made the mistake of even telling them you want to be elected.
Yes.
As far as they're concerned, we're ni mheshimiwa. Now, because right now you haven't thrown your hat in the ring, you have an opportunity to speak your truth as you see fit. Because the salient exchanges, I will tell you what you want to hear, and you in turn will promise me that you will actually elect me. But
yeah,
if
but
people
when you tell people the truth, they dislike you. That's the unfortunate part.
Yeah.
I mean, they say, Bana Omwami, even they say when you want you're seducing a girl, you lie to her.
Yeah.
I mean, that has become practice. I mean, I'm not saying anything demeaning of ladies, but that is...
It's not demeaning.
It's expected.
People say that you have to tell her you'll build her...
You have to lie.
You know, a story building, you'll buy her Mercedes, Marcelina, you know.
I will get a grenade.
And then when she comes home,
Bus.
actually, this is how it
The
is.
chicken is already in the cage.
Yeah, you are locked.
Let's take a break. 29 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation. We are discussing in this hour the politics, Kenya's politics of deceit, dishonesty. Where does it stem from? Is it from our leaders? Is it from our electorate? Is it all of us as a society? Is that where we have reached? And this is what we're having a conversation with David Makali, journalist and also political analyst. We'll be back shortly on KTN Home, SpiceFM, and online.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2000-2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We've swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There is no Kikuyu pothole, Luo lack of water,
Right.
Okamba, lack of traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The rain is coming down at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 16 in Nairobi. Mostly cloudy at 18 in Nakuru. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 15. 14 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's partly sunny at 17, highs of 25. 25 will also be the high in Eldoret, where it's mostly cloudy at 17. Partly sunny conditions now in Mombasa at 29, highs of 33 and lows of 25. At 30, Malindi is cloudy, highs of 33 today and lows of 27. The sun is out in Kisumu at 22. We'll see highs of 29 and lows of 19, while Kakamega is mostly cloudy at 20. It'll go to highs of 28 and lows of 17. Mostly cloudy conditions this morning in Kampala. 26 will be the high and lows of 19, while 30 will be the high in a rainy Dar es Salaam, currently at 25. 15 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg. 23 will be the high and lows of 13. It continues to rain in Lagos, ushering in the rainy season, highs of 33 and lows of 27. It's also raining in Kinshasa, highs of 31 and lows of 23. All right, we're still looking at that traffic madness that's happening around about the city. Chiromo really heavy, then going out towards Wangari Maathai. Folks complaining that the construction is stopping folks from moving as quickly as they should be able to. Cross fingers, guys. March is yet to end. Okay, where else are we looking at traffic? On Jogo Road this morning, really heavy all the way from Hamza out towards the roundabout at the City Stadium. Also, the Eastern Bypass was really messy from the beginning, and it's still looking like that now. Uhuru Highway, then into the city, out through Westlands, that continues. Thika Superhighway looking a tad better now. Outer Ring, however, through to Allsops, and then that junction is not too nice, not for now. Pangani at the underpass, out through to Globe Cinema overpass. Traffic still continues. Let's talk on Spice FM. KE on Twitter, text 40127. Try keep things moving.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
About
FM,
25
Nairobi.
9 with David Makali, journalist and political analyst. We're talking about Kenya's brand of politics, deceit, dishonesty, backstabbing, betrayals, and all manner of things. David says, in his calculation, we haven't really moved much in terms of developing our style of leadership and entrenching good governance and leadership. And this is something that you speak of it as if you're really kind of frustrated. You're like, okay, where we are or where we ought to be.
It is, because we all aspire to have our country's politics develop to the level that we see in the West. All of us cite America, the European countries, where people contest elections on issues and they are re-elected on the basis of the performance, appraisal of how they performed. That is hardly the case here. And we have said we are third world, so our politics is also third world politics because of the poverty, of the unemployment, the issues which drag us down, because the voter has been stripped of their dignity, so they are easily manipulable, they can be influenced by small tokens, bribed to vote. Secondly, there is no ideology in our politics. So we are just, if you look at all these politicians, the difference is in the promises they're making, or the political parties. But if you look at the foundational ideology or philosophies, nothing. Everyone claims the socialism, the social democracy. It's neither here nor there. There's no distinction. And because of that, the leadership and our politics is all about satisfying our immediate needs. And they're so immense that you are not able to do so in any one electoral or tenure term. So we end up in a frustrated, vicious cycle trying to fix things, but we don't have the tools to fix. Because until we can satisfy the basic needs of people, the determining factor in our politics is going to be the stomach. Basic welfare things. And so we'll go around. Whoever offers me better is where I go. And because people are vulnerable, politicians always offer them better. So you look at the promises being made right now. Principally, one, Baba is offering 6,000 on the table as meal for families without income employment. 100 billion from Hustler.
For the youth.
Mama mboga na hawa vijana kuwapatia ajira. Now, if you begin examining those and the immediacy with which these things are being promised, Hustler is reckoning these things mwaka huu tutaweka bilioni 100. And then you look at the practicality of it. By December, we're having elections in August, September, cabinet is formed, maybe first sitting of parliament, and that we are budget, into the next year.
That budget will have been passed by June.
Budget will be passed next month. So what it means is that he'll bring a supplementary budget to basically quash what will have been arrived at or passed in this coming budget by June. So we are going to budget for things which, when we elect a new government, they'll be swung off completely the table, new priorities brought on the table based on the promises of the manifesto of either Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. So you look at how our politics is turbulent and our governance is in shreds. Yet all these things are supposed to be based on long-term, what are they called, national development goals, the Vision 2030. Now, if you ask them, they say all these things are found within the Vision 2030, mid-term, long-term, and Vision 2030 is about to expire shortly.
Health,
But what are the priorities? If you look at the Big Four agenda, they all fit within the Vision 2030. But were those the immediate priorities to lift us out of our poverty and underdevelopment? Because they're based on the promises. We promise people so we can get their support.
Right.
That's where the deceit comes in. Some of those things are not practical, nor are they immediate. But once you get in, then you now begin to fix how you can govern.
But David, I'm listening to your argument. You know what I'm thinking? How different then is the politician from the electorate? Because if I look at our parliament or our politicians, they are also lured by small little tokens here and there. Either to pass this bill or not to pass this bill, or to delay this, or to ignore this, or to do the other. And the same thing we're saying. We, the voter, are also pleased by small little tokens. So we are not dissimilar from our politicians.
So,
they're a reflection of us.
Sure, but David, then it's the same symptoms then that plague the electorate as well as those who are seeking positions of leadership. Many would argue that it is not possible for you to have mature governance without economic development. That you cannot do it unless your people have been sustained unless your people then have everything that they need on a daily basis. There is no way you can then invite political maturity. You cannot have good governance and leadership without economic development.
Totally agree with you. In fact, in this should be an issue of scholarship, that in academia and so forth, what are the prerequisites for successful democracy? You cannot have successful democracy in the manner it's described and known and taught with our existing environments, where people have such needs and diverse factors such as ethnicity, underdevelopment, poverty levels, or education, differences and so forth. A society must reach a certain level where the basic needs have been catered for to apply the concepts of democracy the way they are defined in the West and which we are trying to copy. So we practice some form of democracy, but it is variations. I mean, as
I'm going back to my subject of character. You see, is it that the political class and the nature of our politics, does it corrupt individuals to the point where they are almost indistinguishable from the people we knew before they entered politics to the people they now are and they're elected? Or are we seeing what this person was all along? It's just that the opportunity to see the worst of them had not been presented to us.
No, I'm tempted to think that politics brings out the worst in people. Even good people are influenced by politics to do things that they would not ordinarily not do because of the pressures to deliver, to honor some of the expectations from your electorate, the people who elected you, expecting that their lives are going to change immediately.
David, where's the pressure? To meet the needs of your electorate or to now subscribe to this lofty position and everything that goes with it that you have now acquired?
That is part of meeting the needs, City.
You also have needs as a politician to belong to the high society.
To live up to the expectations.
Look, somebody who, if you just go to any part of this country and ask them, who's your MP? All right? They take pride if their MP is one of those people that you see on TV all the time. If it's one of those MPs who has not been seen, MP. So to belong is part of meeting the needs. Go out there so you can be seen and so you can be saying that Makali is our MP. It's our MP. It's part of it. And then the other part of it is once you get into that club, the goodies that come with being in part of that club, you're able then to take to your people.
And how does it help?
Yes.
What takes priority? Maintaining this particular image, let's call it lifestyle, that you feel you're accustomed to and which you feel is your right, or meeting the needs of the people. If that were the case, why are the complaints so varied and so far and so wide about MPs who are never seen? You are elected, that's
because you have to escape the pressure sometimes. A lot of...
Makali, how then do you explain those who are home almost every weekend or every other weekend? How do you explain those ones then?
Those are the ones I'm talking about. Yeah. Those are the ones who've been able to enter into that club so that then they can maintain that lifestyle. Tell us, kukua kwa ground, what does that mean? Kuonekana kwa ground.
My friend, first you need to have capacity to be on the ground. That capacity is found in the wallet. Because as an MP, on a regular weekend, you need about 100,000 shillings to be on the ground, because you go home and all these people swarm into your home. You have Arambes to attend, your needs to cater for funerals and so on, fees to pay. These things are not anywhere in your pay slip listed. This is for salary, this is your own income for family, this one is for village, and this one is... It is not there. But you have to serve them. So that means you have to look for means to sustain those demands. And that means you have to be crafty. So this thing is a vicious cycle. Politicians have to find money, make the money if they don't have, because they cannot always have that money from the business or their occupations. So we have to cure the poverty and the demands from the people.
And I think because you're essentially asking for a destruction of that structure, whereby the people are expecting the leader to do 1, 2, 3, and also there's the expectation. So in order to destroy that,
Yeah.
you have to make sure that your people, in terms of their basic needs, have been met.
Yes.
And without that, you can't have all these other things that we're talking about. Many would say that whatever this is that we're trying to craft on this side of the pond is still immature and that we need time. We've talked about the Western democracies having had 200 years to be able to figure out what they were doing before times of the Industrial Revolution came and then there was money in the hands of people. Do we see that now, that we still need time? We still need time to sort it out? I mean, how much time
I don't
is
think it's
there?
time we need. It is the right ideas implemented. You know, there was a time when, for example, SACCOs, cooperative societies, chamas and all this, social infrastructure that we have set up to accommodate our diverse needs. Those safety nets need to be strengthened by policy so that people in villages, for example, can be, organized in a manner that some of those basic needs which are being pushed to MPs are actually taken care of, either through devolved government or through national government programs. That's why there's those Kazi kwa Vijana and all these things. They're supposed to address, those are the interventions to make sure that people are self-sufficient or they earn an honest living, not out of the pockets of the elected leaders.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if we can deploy more funds, perhaps that's where, this bottoms-up thing might find relevance. How do you empower these groups at the bottom so that they are not putting pressure on the people, on the elected leaders?
So that they can actually do their job.
To feed them. So they have occupation, they have sources of income that are actually structured and in place.
But David,
as part of our governance structures or economic arrangements.
If you look at the county system, it is a bottoms-up. In structure, in nature, and intent. Because the very thinking behind it was precisely that. Remove all these things, at least as many as you possibly can, with time reduce it more and more from the national government and take it to a government that is nearer to the people. So in essence, we already have such a system. Now, whether
Are
it
they
is
working?
Now, I thank you for asking that question because it brings to the fore what I wanted to ask. You see, there are things we say, and in essence, they're supposed to be an explanation for a situation, but sometimes they seem to me more like a justification. You mentioned the word lie, and I would say that's where the lie comes into the politics. You have a reason to explain a situation, and then you make it the truth. And I'm asking, is it really so? Because when you look at the West and the way they go about their politics, the assumption is that, yes, and the assumption is correct in that the Mwananchi has basic needs met. By and large, it is met. But there is this understanding that when you're a politician, when you're in politics, the foundational blocks of it must be treachery, it must be lies, and it's acceptable. Now, it's acceptable if you're in politics for these things to happen. When you look at, say, Brexit, let's look at the UK.
Yes.
Let's look at Brexit. Before, the Prime Minister and his best friend and chief advisor, Dominic Cummings, fell out. And one started talking about this and one started talking about the other. It hit the headlines for a very long time. Now, if you look at some of the conversations they were having, and you strip it to the bare, it boils down to these people were lying to the public. That's what it boils down to. Even if you look at the advertisements, for instance, about Brexit, you know what they were saying? But are you aware that Britain is sending to the EU £350 million every week? Now, it was said, it was even in buses, it was an advertisement, and people say it every day. It wasn't true. But do you think people cared? Cummings, who was the chief advisor at that particular point to the Prime Minister, would support this issue on his Twitter. Yes. They eventually got what they wanted. Okay? Now, I'm giving this as an example to say this, that when you look at our politics, what we're discussing here is what we call priming. Before the event and before what you want to do, you give people, you give them a position.
Yes.
And say, unajua hii kitu vile iko, or the language vile inakuaga.
Begin orienting them.
Towards what's coming.
Yes.
And you say it long enough, people begin to say, this is the reason why this happens. Then, framework. You give it a framework within which you're going to do it. And that's where all these little stories about, I will give 100 million, 100 billion, I will give, that's where it comes in now. You're now giving flesh to this particular. And then, when you've set the agenda now, vizuri, okay? you now, the person who's standing, you're the person who can deliver all these things. Yes. But the truth of the matter is, you can't. The role of government across the world is to do precisely all these things that you're talking about. The lie is, it is you. Now, do you hear politicians coming out and say, actually, folks, let me explain to you how government works? No, it is me. Now, big lie.
Yes. That's where it starts. So our civic education is important. So that the public also understands the expectations must be realistic, not put things on people.
Who's to conduct that civic education?
Government. You know.
Who's government?
Government. Government at both levels. You know, our government has been restructured by the Constitution very well. Now, we need a revolutionary leader to take charge of government. You know the way Museveni reorganized Ugandan society, completely with the national resistance movement up to resistance councils, up to the village councils.
Yes.
Our constitution also makes a provision for all these things, Paka village administrators and all these things. This government, now that structure needs to be given substance in terms of organizing, staffing it, and operationalizing it. So that the money then begins to go to those levels to arrest the situations which are overwhelming government. As you know, the way the matatu sector was reorganized, for example, every matatu must belong to a SACCO.
Yes.
Imagine if you structured society like that and said everybody must belong to a youth group. If you are up to 18 years, you must belong to a youth group. Those youth groups are funded in the villages, either through the national government or the county governments. Funds are going directly there to fund activities which generate income and give them jobs.
In that community.
So you begin to arrest some of and then leaders are at the head of these things so that they don't have to shoulder these responsibilities financially because they say the money has been channeled here to take care of your needs. Jisot kutoka hapo. Don't come to me when you have funerals. Don't come to me when you have no school fees.
But that means
these
somebody is losing
things
power.
Are being put here and there, but it's helter-skelter.
Somebody is losing power when that happens.
I know.
And that's what they want to cling on to.
Well, here we are, we're looking at, it's still the chicken and egg situation. But if I look, because you say, okay, then whose responsibility is it to teach? Whose responsibility is it to learn? And then you pass on this information. However, it would be interesting to hear the only time, take your pick, that we have seen things started to build up is when they reached ground zero. Pick any country.
Yes.
China, the United States, anywhere in Europe. When things hit rock bottom, when there was no option but to build up is when you started to see progress. Here we are dancing about with these options here, politician will be able to, no. And I've always, until you have a disruption.
Yes.
That is the only,
properly.
Zero. That is the only time you'll be able to see these things built up. Otherwise, we're just here talking, being romanticizing about things here until you get to the point where you have no option but to do it right. We will not see progress.
It takes leadership also to marshal such discontent and that situation to funnel that energy into a movement then that reorganizes society and gives it a new leap. You know, in this country, there are not many forces around which people can congregate to cause revolutionary change or major leadership shifts. I mean, it used to be Baba. Now Baba is in a situation here.
Situation shift.
Yeah, in a situation
shift.
Is it a
situation or is it an arrangement?
Yeah, in some, you know. And then now, then Hustler has come around. He's captured the imagination of a certain cluster of Kenyans that are suffering or that have identification or alienation.
He's in an empowerment narrative, and a very effective empowerment narrative.
Yes, and he has a good message that really resonates well with that constituency. But can he marshal sufficient number to take leadership of this group and deliver them to where they need to go? That is a different story.
David, am I hearing you in very many ways going around saying, maybe we need a benevolent dictator?
You can say yes. It's really okay.
Actually, we need a firm hand in this country because there's so much disorder There's lack of discipline. Going back to what J.B. Muturi used to say.
Discipline.
There is indiscipline in this country. There is lack of order within systems, and performance is falling short. We have the infrastructure. We have the laws. Implementation is the problem. So you need a firm hand, somebody who's on top of the situation to fix things. But there must be breathing spaces, institutions which allow people to express themselves and to contribute and to participate in such government. That we must guard at all times. We don't want any choking dictatorship. No, and anyone who demonstrates such a tendency should be shunned and ejected from our system.
Maybe for us to get to that point, you first need to have a choking kind of system, get things in line, and then now allow the breathing spaces to come in. Because you'll be competing. You come in today, David, you want to be a firm hand, and then you have all these civil societies, very vibrant. You've got all these constitutional commissions. You've got, I don't know who asking you, telling you.
I don't agree, Latiff.
I want to do
You
this.
must always have a breather. I mean, even a tank, man, has magic ija, there is...
Kuna mahali
natiririka.
Yes.
Ukifunga sana, people will choke, and it will be a full-time dictatorship. And everybody, power is power can be abused. Absolute power is even more abused. So we must always check that. But we need a firm hand, a leader who is hands-on, and who has no compromises, who has no baggage, who can not say, this is my friend, this is my community, this is my region. You crack down on people, the law is implemented.
Which I feel that's
square.
part of our problem,
Yeah.
is every leader that we have has some baggage.
Yeah.
They are beholden. They owe somebody something. They are there because, like now, the way we are saying, you cannot form a government without a coalition. What does that mean? It means that you're not independent.
Yeah.
You get in there, and everybody will be telling, unajua kura zetu ndio zilikuwa.
But Eric, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
So you can't be a firm hand.
No, you can. But it's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a good thing. The process of understanding how to work with people is that process of understanding that you cannot have absolute power. Where we've had even absolutism, look at, I give the example of ANC in South Africa. Those guys had the majority. They were a dictatorship of sorts.
Yeah.
They could just pass laws as they saw fit. And the outcome of that was, when you have a vibrant opposition of people who force you to pause, it is good for you. It is good for the government.
Vibrant
it is good for the
opposition.
people. It is good.
But vibrant opposition is not a coalition.
No. A coalition, in essence, is...
A coalition is a gathering of interests.
It is a gathering of interests, and within it...
That may have nothing to do with the public.
They don't allow you to move.
It is embedded in diversity. You know, I'm saying this. The example I've seen in Kenya was that Nusumkati of Kibaki's and Raila's.
Yes.
That was first-hand seeing. Those guys were a check and balance unto themselves.
None of them could be a firm hand.
Actually, they could.
There was corruption during that time, and nobody could talk about it.
It was
Why?
crazy.
Because you talk about it, will expose you.
The point is, there are many things that would not have happened if they were not a check and balance. The corruption we're saying, in my opinion, could have been worse. If there was one party that knew it didn't matter what the opposition did, they could just do what they saw fit.
But, there were advantages to that grand coalition, but also disadvantages. Some things were obstructed merely because they don't favor us.
But
Not
that's part
necessarily
of
because they
our,
were
but David,
good
that's
for the
part of
public.
our growth.
Yeah.
You see, everything that we're dealing and we're talking about here in the Kenyan setup, it's an experiment. Trying to find out this democracy, what aspect of it fits and suits us
But
best.
at some point, something's got to pass the acid test, CT. You can't be experimenting
And,
until
and what is the acid test?
to move.
Okay,
To move.
but are we not moving?
Let me tell you,
are we not moving?
In fact, we have regressed in our politics. We had political parties and we had opposition and all these things, and those were sufficient checks and balances. Now we've come to this thing. There's a mongoloid that they tried to create under BBI. I'm happy it didn't succeed.
Wait.
But this thing of everybody wins. I mean, I didn't know what it meant in practical terms.
Thursday is coming.
Yeah,
Don't speak too soon.
I am optimistic that we will hold ground. We being the...
We've come to the top of the hour. Thank you very much, David, for joining us. See, it's been nice. You'll come
man.
again.
See, it's nice being here, man.
Good.
When you guys do this every morning and you don't invite us.
We do this every morning and you've been avoiding us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching The Conversation on TV. The conversations continue on SpiceFM around the country and SpiceFM KE on YouTube and Facebook. David McCauley has been our guest. Good morning. It's now 9 a.m.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Seto. Government spokesperson Sarah Zaguna has stressed the need to conserve the environment as the way of mitigating the prolonged dry spell experienced in parts of the country. Speaking at Olokurto ward in Narok North Sub-County while presiding over a relief food distribution exercise, Zaguna stated that the ongoing drought in the country is attributed to environmental degradation that is caused by cutting down trees. Zaguna noted the conservation and conservation of Masai Mara forest was the government's priority as it benefits millions of people in and outside the country. Now, water scarcity at King Fahad Hospital in Lamu County continues to be witnessed as normal activities continue to be disrupted. Various wings of the hospital continue to be shut down, forcing the patients to seek services in the neighboring Mombasa County, or some having to travel to Nairobi. The latest to close its doors is the renal unit. Lamu County Health CEC and Gathuni says 15 patients who are being treated at the hospital have been sent to seek treatment at other county hospitals. On the 9th of this month, the renal unit closed, forcing 12 patients to seek services elsewhere. The Kenya Film Classification Board has put on notice video gaming joints in the North Rift region that are exposing children to graphic, violent and other offensive content. The board warned the gaming joints that they were being closely monitored and stern action, including arrest, prosecution and withdrawal of operating licenses, will be taken against those found violating laws and rules governing the sector. KFCB North Rift Regional Manager Emmanuel Mbuto said it was sad that some parents have turned the video gaming joints into daycare centers where the children are exposed to harmful content without their knowledge the whole day. Now, at least 76 candidates at Moi Primary School, Kabrak, scored above 400 marks in the just-released KCPE exam results, even as the school also produced the 5th-ranked candidate nationally in Emmanuel Kiplagat, who scored 425 marks. Kabarak remains one of the towering academic schools in the country. At the neighboring Sun and Shield Academy, the student shining brightest had scored 420 marks, with 37 others scoring above 400 marks. Now, over 70,000 residents of Nakuru County have been issued with title deeds in the past 1 month during the ongoing titling program initiated by President Uhuru Kenyatta 2 years ago. Governor Lee Kinyanjui, however, expressed concern that a high number of land disputes pending in Nakuru courts is slowing the program meant to issue title deeds to at least 100,000 landowners by end of the year. Kinyanjui indicated that the title deeds had been given out to landowners within Kurisei South, Naivasha, Rongai, Njoro, Subukia, Bahati and Gilgil sub-counties. He added that a further 20,000 title deeds will be issued to landowners in Mai Mahiu and Longonot in Naivasha sub-county and in Kabatini, Githioro and Dundori locations within Bahati sub-county by June this year. Other beneficiaries will be drawn from Polepole, Salga, Muchorwe and Kibunja villages within Subukia, Rongai, Kuresoi South and Molo sub-counties respectively. Now, Kenyans are sending each other about 12.25 billion shillings daily on the mobile money transfer platform as more subscribe to the service mainly for convenience. Latest data from the Communications Authority of Kenya indicates that a value of person-to-person cash transfers on the mobile money platform increased 4.2% to 1.13 trillion shillings during the last 3 months of last year from 1.08 trillion shillings, according to Communications Authority. The number of mobile money subscriptions between October and December 2021 grew marginally by 1.8% to 35.2 million from 34.5 million in September. The data also indicates that Kenyans are spending 14.21 billion shillings daily buying goods and services from businesses that have a mobile money pay bill or buy goods business number. In addition, businesses are on a daily basis transferring 9.79 billion shillings to customers. And finally, at least 5,000 people have died in the besieged port city of Mariupol in southern Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion last month. The number of people killed could only be estimated with bodies stuck under the rubble. Ukraine's foreign ministry said the situation is catastrophic and Russia's assault from land, sea and air had turned a city once home to 450,000 people into dust. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, really crazy today on the Thika Superhighway. Folks are not understanding what's going on. Well, I can tell you, there have been a couple of accidents on that road this morning, and that's what's causing that crazy traffic. Combine that with the rain, and you have a recipe for absolute traffic, and it's going to take us well past traffic hour today. We're going towards the underpass, and that's where we'll see some issues. Chiromo then heading out towards Wangari Maathai Way or heading onto Huru Highway today. Really, really tight, and it doesn't look like it's opening up anytime soon, but we're going to keep an eye on things and see what happens. Ring Road Westlands also doing that thing today, coming out of Westlands and then going in the direction of the Arboretum. That still continues. We're looking at Jogo Road, crazy. Landis Road, heavy traffic getting towards the Kamkunji roundabout. And Gong Road also doing that thing. Langata Road, okay. So in short, there's traffic everywhere. We might get out of it by 9:30, but let's just keep an eye on things and see how it goes. All in all, be careful and then let us know what's happening. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not
Okay,
down.
it is 7 minutes after 9. Good morning. This is the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation today. We now want to talk about KCPE results. But before we do that, the day's proverb.
Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it.
Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it. Chad. So how many more days in Chad?
One more.
One more.
One more day.
One more day. Okay.
One more day kule Chadi.
Mhm.
Sawa. Okay, 8 minutes after 9. So, KCPE results. Yesterday, Professor Magoha, accompanied by the leadership of the teaching fraternity, NAT and TSC, State House. Mr. President, the children sat the exam. We have marked. Here are the results. Mr. President, Prof, hii ni mzuri sana. Haya, enda waambie watu. Came and released the results. And there was jubilation from many families across the country. You know, those that sat the exam. For example, the family of Bruce Mackenzie Magata from Gilgil Hills Academy is very happy. He scored 428 marks, the highest in the country. And there are very many others who scored over 400 marks. Very many others who scored between 300 and 400. Others who scored between 200 and 300. And others scored below 200. As happens in all exams. Now, as we look at the kind of schools that performed very well, we have seen the private schools were doing very, very well. Many of them in Nairobi, in Machakos, in Makueni County. This time, by the way, Makueni has come back to the top. There were days when I was in primary school, it was Nyandarua County. In the 80s, Nyandarua was the number one district. Every time, just Nyandarua, Nyandarua, Nyandarua. Now, it's Makueni. And schools in Makueni have done very well. Other private schools have done very well. Public schools have also done very well. There's a lot of focus on those that have performed. But just like we said, during the exams, there were children who come from areas that have faced violence and insecurity for the better part of the past year. Those children have been affected either by displacement, by just the incidences of violence, by just hearing gunshots. All those things have affected them in one way or the other. So how have they performed? We spoke with somebody from Kerio Valley just the other day, and his name is Timothy Cherop. And Timothy was telling us, well, our village was attacked on Sunday. And there were people here who were killed, and others were injured, and others had to be taken to hospital. And we are all living in fear. We did not know, but Timothy actually had a child who was also sitting exam. The good news is that Timothy's child scored very good marks, he'll tell us, because he is now on the line. And also we'll speak to somebody who is a headmistress at Tunyo Primary School, which is also in that restive area. Both of them are now on the line. Timothy Cherop, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Very good to have you back on the show. Thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us.
Yes, thank you.
We also have on the line Mrs. Katam Chepkum, who's the headmistress of Tunyo Primary School. Good morning, Mwalimu.
Good morning.
Thank you very much as well for speaking to us. Where is Tunyo Primary School?
Tunyo Primary School is in Narobi, Marakwet, County, Elgeyo Marakwet Town.
So it's in Elgeyo Marakwet?
Yes, it's in Elgeyo Marakwet Town.
Is it in one of the areas that have been affected by violence recently?
Yes, it is in Narobi, which is mostly affected by bandits.
Tell us, during the period when the children were sitting the exam, was there security provided to them?
There were no security which was provided by the security officers apart from the parents who were just patrolling the area from morning to make sure that their children learn in a conducive environment.
And is it a boarding or day school?
It's a day school.
How many pupils did you have in Standard 8?
I had 19 pupils, 10 girls, 9 boys.
And how did they perform?
They got a mean of 273, and like last year, we had a mean of 263, a positive improvement of 10.
There actually was an improvement.
Yes, there was improvement.
Okay. Did you feel, if you can tell us, did you feel that there was pressure because of the security situation right now? And do you feel that they may have performed better if things were stable?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Do you feel, as these children were writing this exam, do you feel that they would have performed better if the security situation was better?
Yes, they could perform better.
How was it for you in the school, running the school in the past 1 year with all the insecurity around? Were there days that you did not have children coming to school?
Most of the time, some children came late. Most of them were absent in school, but there are some strengths which made us to go far. To go an extra mile, for example. So the area was insecure.
Yep.
The teachers were very committed. There was teamwork. They were always doing revision. And they also made sure that syllabus coverage was done in time. And in case of absenteeism or they come late to school, they make sure that there is lesson recovery from evening or mornings when the men patrol the area. So that was the major thing, lesson recovery in case of absenteeism or lateness. Another thing, the teachers had systematic guidance and counseling. They always advise their learners in case of anything, they should work hard. Another issue is that we had a very cooperative and supporting COM. make sure that in case of insecurity, they come to school, they come and motivate both their teachers and their learners by providing us material support. They also give our learners material kits when they visit the school. And our pupils, through the guidance and counseling, were hardworking. Most of them were disciplined, cooperative, went to their parents, who decided to cut their school in case of anything.
What I wanted to ask
were
you...
the major strengths in our school. Yes.
Sorry for interrupting you. What I wanted to find out is, if you look at the setup of primary schools in the area that you come from, are the schools within easy reach of the students who seek this education, or are there schools that students have to walk long distance or travel long distance before they actually get to their schools?
Most of our learners, because of the insecurity cases, live in the escarpment, and they walk very long distances from morning to school, about 3 to 5 kilometers from morning and evening. Most of them even miss lunches because their parents also see us coming to the school to bring their lunches.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, in that region, which is the closest national secondary school that you have?
Kaswargal.
That's the closest, and where exactly is it located?
It is located in Marakwet West, but it is in Kaswar Zone, about 1 kilometers from our school.
Now, I don't know whether you might know this, but given the insecurity that we speak of, do you experience in the community people who perhaps even qualify to go to secondary school, but many who drop out and don't continue their education for one reason or the other?
Those who?
People who go to school. Do you have dropouts, people who don't continue their education for one reason or the other?
Yes, we have some. About 10 in a school because of lack of school fees. Some of them drop, but in case of pregnancies, it is minimal in our area. But the major one is all the school fees because of the insecurity. The men just cut the area, they don't have time to look for the school fees for their children. Another one is poverty because of the insecurity. If the men do not have time to cultivate their land, they just cut the area. That is the main thing. The insecurity has made our people to be in total poverty. That is why most of our children miss food because of the school fees and also lack of basic needs.
What have you heard in terms of help? Because this is not something that started with these exams, madam. This is something that has been there for some time. What has been said to you in terms of making the situation better? Or have you even raised an alarm to say, look, this is the situation these children are in, this is the situation their families are in, can we do something to make the education a situation better? And what have you been told?
To make the situation better?
Who have you gone to? Who has been involved? Who, in terms of government, has been asked the questions to say, look, this is what is happening. Who will help?
The education officers have been offering guidance and counseling. There are also some NGOs like the World Vision, CDF, churches, who have been helping our children to give them bursaries so that they further their education.
So in 2021, Mrs. Chepkum, you had 19 students who've sat the KCPE.
In Tunyo?
This particular one, in Tunyo Primary School.
Yes.
How many did you have in the last year, in 2020? No, how many students sat KCPE?
We also had 19 learners, like this year, also 19 learners.
For the 19 learners who sat KCPE the previous year, did all of them go to secondary school?
90% went to secondary school, and the other 10% went to vocational training centers. All of them went to school. They joined the school. And most of them went because of these NGOs, the World Vision and CPF, who provided them with the school fees.
Okay. So there was a lot of support in terms of school fees for them. How many went to, is there any that went to national school? How many went to extra county schools?
No one went to national school. About 2 went to extra county school. 3 went to county school. And the rest went to sub-county school. And we had also one boy who had to join the Bara Boys, which is an extra county school, but went to a day school because of lack of fees.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then of all these ones that went then to the various schools, that means that they had performed well enough, especially the 2 that went to the extra county schools. This
They
year,
are performing well.
This year, what was your highest score for the students that sat this year?
335.
335.
Yes, the first line.
Wow, a very good one. And the last one got, what was the score for the last? The lowest score?
The last one had 192, and this one did not come to school because of insecurity. He decided to go to his relatives' family because of the fear of the banditry attack.
Wow, okay.
So he was absent for most of the year.
The boy just reported to school during KCB. That is why he did not perform like the other learners.
So throughout the term, he was not in school, but just came for the exam.
He went to another school. I was always talking with the head of the school, but he told me that the boy was a frequent absentee.
Yeah.
And I called the mother, and the mother told me that the boy will come back, but he retained the boy till KCP time when the boy came. That is why he did not perform like the other learner. But I thank God he managed to come and shoot the exams, and so he got 192. We just appreciate.
He really tried. Let's now talk to Timothy Cherop. Timothy, thank you for holding on the line. Timothy,
Yes.
we spoke to you a couple of days ago, and it's good to hear that you had a learner in school who has scored 375 marks.
Yes.
Congratulations. Is it your son or your daughter?
No, it's just a relative whom I've been monitoring for a long time. Yeah, and we were happy that she scored 375 marks. Yeah.
Was she in the in a local school?
No, previously was in the local schools, but when insecurity became rampant, we had to relocate her to Highlands so that she can get a school where she is comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the situation like for other school-going children in your area?
Yeah, I am disappointed to report to you that despite the results that are being released, were released yesterday, still the situation is very bad. Actually, I want to begin from where we left the other time last week. We remember we had a discussion about the attack in Kotilia area.
Yes.
Which result to loss of 2 people.
Yes.
I also reported to you that we had around 6 people who were receiving medication in various hospitals, including MTRH in Eldoret.
Yes.
And it is quite unfortunate to report to you again that one of the 6 who was receiving medication in Eldoret Hospital, unfortunately succumbed to death on Sunday, the day before yesterday. Because he could not manage. He had a wound on the head. He was shot on the head.
Wow.
So he has been on ICU for almost a week. So we are now planning for the burial and all those. So actually there is a lot of tension.
Poleni
And coming back to the issue of KCB results.
Yep.
I have to report to you that actually if there are people who were to celebrate these results better in Kenya, are the people of Kerio Valley. Because you realize that the leading in the country was 428.
Yep.
But amidst the insecurity issues in Aror Ward and Kerio Valley, entire Kerio Valley, there is a school in Aror Ward called School of Peace, St. Benedict School of Peace, which had a girl called Marion Kimutai, who scored 417.
Wow.
Followed by another girl called Immaculate Cherono, who scored 404. And these girls, these people went to school with the fear that was there, the conscience that was there, the displacement that was there. Because if you realize that in Aror Ward, there are very few boarding schools. Most of the schools are day schools. Beginning from the far end, the school of Madam Flomena Katam, Junior Primary School, which had a student of 335 leading. Coming to Jesuman Primary School, which had a student of 361 leading. Coming to Parsumpat Primary School, which had a student of 327 leading. We have Chepkum Primary School also along the valley, which had a student of 315 leading. We have another school called New Genesis School, which had a student of 389 leading. We have Gibkaner Primary School, which had 325. And finally, we have the school I just mentioned, School of Peace, which had 417. We have Koitilial, which is familiar to you because of the previous discussion.
Yeah.
Koitilial, the leading student had 296. Kapkata, which is adjacent to Koitilial, had a student leading with 254. And finally, the last school along the valley is Kilos Primary School, which had the leading with 325. So actually, if you can look at those results, amidst the challenges that the learners were having, the parents, the teachers, you can realize that actually if these people were given good environment, they would have even performed better.
That's really true.
Yeah, so you realize that actually the situation down there is people are tempted to celebrate, others are celebrating and saying, okay, it is good, they have scored such a marks despite the insecurity issue. But you also realize there is another problem which is awaiting coming May.
That's school fees.
When students are supposed to report to Form 1.
Yes.
I have been monitoring for the last previous years the entry of our students of the transition of our pupils from primary to secondary. You realize that it is really bad. Let us speak from where Madam Flomena of Tunya Primary School left, of a student who was to join Chepara Boys Secondary School, which is one of the biggest schools in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Also, it is located in the islands. Same case to Kapsawar Girls, which is one of the biggest school again. Those good schools are in the islands, and they don't have issue to do with insecurity. So most of the schools from the Valley, Kerio Valley, have most of their dreams to join those schools which are on the upper island, so that because they know those are the most comfortable schools in our area.
Yep.
So there was this boy called Kipchirchir from Tunya Primary School who scored very good marks last year and was given an admission to Chebara Boys. But unfortunately, we were sad to learn that the boy did not report to that school. Finally, he joined Mokil Day School. You remember the bus which was shot by bandits the other time?
Yeah.
It was a bus belonging to Mokil Day Secondary School, where this boy, who was supposed to join Jabara Boys, was now having his studies in Mokil Secondary School. So you realize that such a boy had an opportunity to go to a very good school, but because of the issue of fees, Because in Jabara Boys, the fees are slightly higher than a day school in Kerio Valley.
So he ended up in a sub-county school.
Yeah, a day school in that case.
A day school.
Yeah.
Whereas his marks had actually qualified him for an extra county school.
Yeah, an extra county school. So what I'm trying to say here is that I'm anticipating a certain problem coming in May, where most of the learners who have achieved good marks are likely not to attend, or rather to join their schools of choice. Because when you look, the situation of insecurity has been there for the last 8 months. Now, and you realize that the parents have not had good time to look for money to invest and such cases, because they have been up and down, they have been running up and down, displacement, all those cattle have been taken away, because most of the people rely on selling goats, cows in Kerio Valley.
Yeah.
But now you find that one family, the whole cattle has been swept away by bandits. And none of the family member is in maybe in a good position to finance them in such a case. So you realize that the learners have finished their task, they have produced good results, but now the burden lies to the parents who have been on a very bad situation for the last 6 to 8 months likely.
And they'll not be able to afford now taking them to school.
Yeah, they will not be able, because and the government will not understand. You see.
So various funds here. In fact, let's also bring in Mwalimu, Mrs. Katam. Various funds that support students, especially going to secondary school. There's the Ministry of Education at the national level has a fund, a bursary fund. The counties have bursary funds. CDF has bursary. And you've told us there are NGOs that work in your area, like World Vision. They also all have bursary. Are you saying that none of them was able, for example, to come to the aid of the boy? What's his name? Kipchirchir?
Kipchirchir, yes.
To take him to the school that he had been admitted to.
Yeah, maybe allow me to respond to that so that Madam Katam will respond later.
Yeah.
You realize the situation down there, almost everybody is poor. You see? Yeah, and then there comes a situation where when the NGOs like World Vision, we have AIC, the Church of Kenya, the African Inland Church of Kenya, which also offers some scholarships to learners.
Yes.
We have Ecobank with the scholarship on Wings to Fly. When you look at the ratio of the scholarships and the ratio of the learners who are supposed to be given help, the scholarships are few. For the case of Kipchirchir, in the village that this boy came from, we had around 6 learners who had passed the exams, and those groups like Equity Wings to Fly group came, the AIC came, and some other supportive agencies came. But now they had to look for the most vulnerable family. You see, Kipchirchir is a firstborn in his family. You see such a case. And then there was also another boy who had been admitted, if I remember, his birthday or something in Nakuru there.
Yeah.
The boy was really in need, you see?
Yeah.
So they had to sit down, discuss with most of the family members, discuss with the village, the village elders, and then to see which one are the most needy, you see? Yeah, then of course they will not sponsor everybody or every child in the village. They have to be distributed.
So it has to be balanced and being split among all of them.
Yeah, so you find that the boy unfortunately never got the scholarship. We appreciate Ecobank because they took one. We also appreciate Wings to Fly, not Wings, AIC. Because they took one. So you realize that the supportive agencies are few compared to the problems that they are in the area.
Okay, Madam Katam, now come in here and tell us, from the students who've sat this KCPE now, with a very good mean score, they've improved from the previous year, they have passed, are there plans that you have put in place to assist them in securing bursaries?
Hello.
Madam Katam.
Yes.
Are there plans that you've put in place as a school with your BOM to help the students that have just sat their KCPE to get bursaries so they can go to a secondary school?
Yes, we sat down with the BOM members and they promised the learners who are going to join these schools to some of them to do the shopping and others to pay the fees. And also, there is this NGO called World Vision which provided the Kirkir with 10,000.
Yeah.
So it didn't join Jabara boys because Jabara was supposed to pay 53,000 per year. And shopping, when you get the shopping about 30,000, a total of 83,000. So the parents decided to take him to Mugilate because they could afford to pay about 20,000. So the plan we had for this candidate who did this year is just to assist those learners from humble background to do some shopping, the school and the BOM and others. Those who have not been given the shopping to be paid this about 10,000 per learner. We're going to join a school.
We wish you all the best as you work on how to get them all the support that they need and tell them congratulations. Even the one who scored 192 marks.
Absolutely.
After spending almost the entire year being, relocating, moving to another area, trying to go to school and also not being able to attend school. Tell them congratulations on our behalf. Asante sana. And Timothy, also thank you very much for speaking to us. As you talk to the girl, just also tell her congratulations for the marks that she got.
Thank you so much for hosting us, and we appreciate you people for your frequent. You have concern for us and the people of Keria Valley actually.
Yes, we do.
Thanks,
Asante
Timothy.
sana.
Thank you.
Kenya's biggest conversation at 23 minutes to 10. Let's take this quick break. There's business news coming up shortly, and then we take a look at the weather and traffic. Then we'll open up the phone lines because this is a matter that needs to be discussed.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Business news on SpiceFM. It is Spice Business. I'm Dennis Assetto. Safaricom has continued to dominate the telco industry with continued growth of subscriptions in the second quarter of 2021-2022 as its competitors recorded slight declines. According to the Communication Authority Quarter 2 sector statistics, Safaricom grew its subscriptions by 2.23% to 65,085,720 as of December 2021. Other players such as Telkom, Airtel and Equitel recorded a dip in subscriptions in the quarter under review. Now, Kenyans should brace for a serious food shortage following an admission by the Ministry of Agriculture that it cannot be able to raise 32 billion shillings to offer subsidized farm inputs ahead of planting season. The admission comes at a time thousands of farmers in the country's food basket are preparing to plant during this long-range season but are unable to purchase inputs such as fertilizers whose prices have rocketed. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has assured of adequate stock amidst reports of scarcity in parts of the country, including North Rift and Western Kenya. According to EPRA, the shortage has been occasioned by unseen logistical constraints which have seen independent petroleum dealers run out of petroleum stocks. The national government has assured Kenyans that the ongoing registration of border riders will streamline the sector that has been faced with a number of challenges. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Jerome Ochieng, who launched the registration exercise in Kisumu, says the government means well for the well-being of its citizens. And the Central Bank of Kenya has temporarily barred Ecobank Kenya Limited from foreign exchange trade over unsafe trading practices. CBK says the lender had concluded a Forex transaction contrary to the prudential guidelines on foreign exchange exposure limits. The lender is now required to commence addressing the said breach by Thursday by ensuring corrective measures that led to the non-compliance are addressed. And 4 Points by Sheraton Nairobi Airport has been named the best airport hotel in Africa and Kenya in International Hotel Awards. The hotel was also listed among the world's top 100 hotels for executives 2022 by CEO Destinations. This is the fourth consecutive year that the hotel has been recognized as the continent's leading airport hotel by the International Hotel Awards. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Business news, keeping you up to date on all your money matters.
Light rain in certain parts of Nairobi. The sun will peek through those clouds at some point. Highs of 25 and lows of 16. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 20, highs of 27 and lows of 15. We'll see lows of 14. In a rainy Nyeri at 19, highs of 25. We'll also see highs of 25 in Eldoret, where it's mostly cloudy, coming down to lows of 15. Partly sunny conditions now in Mombasa at 31, highs of 33 and lows of 25. We're looking at Malindi is mostly cloudy at 32, highs of 33. Today, it's sunny at 24 in Kisumu, 29 will be the high and lows of 19, while Kakamega is mostly cloudy at 23 with highs of 28. We'll see lows of 17. It's partly sunny in Kampala at 23, highs of 26, while we see rain now back in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 24. It's sunny in Johannesburg at 17. It'll go to highs of 23 and lows of 13, while mostly sunny conditions in Lagos going to highs of 34 and lows of 27. It continues to rain in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 23. 11 and light rain going into Tuesday evening in Beijing. We'll see highs of 12 and lows of 8. It's 12 degrees and rainy in Paris, highs of 17 and lows of 9. And the rain also continues in London at 8, highs of 10 and lows of 4. It's -3 in New York. The Big Apple will see temperatures going to highs of 5 and lows of -3. Okay, so today has been one for the books in terms of traffic in most parts of the city today. We're getting out of the rut for most parts, but we still see some traffic on Mombasa Road, quite some. So look at further Mombasa Road. Folks have been stuck in Mtito along that route through the night. Not quite sure what has caused that traffic, but it's starting to open up just now. And through the day, let us know how that has worked out. Uhuru Highway still opening up here and there. The Thika Superhighway much better now, but see bits and bobs of traffic along the streets. Let's talk through the morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, so now those are the heroes we just heard. Students who went to school in violence-prone area and they scored over 300 marks, 335, highest mark in Tunyo Primary School, St. Benedict School of Peace, 417. 417. Another one scoring 404. These are good marks.
Indeed.
And these are excellent marks.
Excellent marks. And as Timothy was telling us, just telling us, starting from this school, the highest was 300 and what? 300. There was 399. They've actually performed very well.
All things taken into consideration, absolutely. Yep. I mean, this young fella who was not in school, literally, for a year, and then still shows up for the exam and is able to score 198. I believe that was the number.
192.
Yes, 192. And then you think, okay, what must have been going through his mind every time family has to move because there's insecurity? Because this is essentially what was happening. He then could not come back to the school where he was because of the insecurity situation. And I think oftentimes in conversation, I think we unconsciously downplay the severity of this situation. So you can imagine families who are restive in a particular place, and then there's an attack overnight, and they have to, in their conscious state, have to think, okay, do we stay here? Do we move? What's going to happen? This does not take into consideration every other process of life that is going on at the time. Children are in school. There's a business families are running. There is a business that parents go to on a daily. There is a job that parents go to on a daily. Do we up and leave because this is our place of solace at night, or we've come to rest with our families? Now you have something as disruptive as an exam, national exam taking place, where your wits need to be about you at all times. And here you have to battle, do we live or do my children sit this exam?
You know, the area has been rife with banditry and upheaval for a very long time. But just take a step back and look at an urban setting where someone lives in a slum, where water supply is iffy, power supply is iffy. It's a town. You don't have a farm that you can get produce from. You have to buy. Jobs are iffy, if not non-existent. And you are a student who is also going to sit for this particular exam. Compared with a student who is in a school which has running water, there are around 40 students in a class. Some are in boarding school, you can study at night. Some even have what you call assistant teachers. So for every class of, say, 20 students, there are 2 teachers.
2 teachers.
Okay? They are all sitting the same exam, same. And the expectation is the same. Now, it brings in the question of equal opportunity, really. That everybody can sit the exam, yes, it's an opportunity. But the opportunity to get the capacity to learn as best as you can, so that the best that you can perform is also brought to the fore. Would you say it is readily available?
No, it's not.
Precisely. So what you're saying is, the exam also brings out the enormous and phenomenal inequalities that we have within the educational system.
And the inadequacies of the system.
Yes.
And then many would ask that, is it then fair to place that responsibility on the educational system because of what is happening in other sectors of society, of the country?
Yes.
Can you then say, because of an insecurity situation, insecurity in this case, that responsibility is then placed on the Ministry of Education?
It is not really their responsibility.
It is not their responsibility, neither is it their fault.
No.
Are they meant to deliver education? Yes, they are. Can they deliver it adequately because of other circumstances? Unfortunately, they can't. But then must the responsibility be placed on them. Can they acknowledge and say that this is actually an imbalance? Yes, they can. But I think the question further than that is there really something that they can do about it? And here we are saying that the responsibility for providing a safe and secure environment rests on government. It does. Now, the particular sector of government that ought to do something about it, I'm sorry, is not doing an adequate job.
The CS for Interior is due to appear before Parliament today to talk about the insecurity in this particular region. And say what he is, what they're doing about it. He probably will go and say the same thing that we were being told the other day by the MCA. They had said, we are deploying more KPR, we shall take more officers on the ground, we shall do this and the other. And he may go and tell Parliament that this is what is already happening. And yet we know from the ground it's not what is happening. They've got very many questions to answer. At the same time, we have to think about these students they've just finished. They've picked their results. They and their families need immediate peace of mind to know they are going to secondary school. Because that whole thing of saying, it's a government policy, people will go to secondary school. There's a child who was supposed to have gone to an extra county school.
By virtue of their performance.
And now they are just in a local day school. And even now with that local day school, they're still not guaranteed that they'll finish.
Remember, there was also the issue that touched heavily on the economic capacities of the parents in that particular region.
Yep.
Many of them are pastoralists. The farming that they do is for subsistence, existence.
Yeah.
Now, if your wealth, which is embedded in your cattle, has all but vanished, even if your child does well, how are you going to take them to school? Because this is your source of livelihood.
Yep.
You knew, I have 20 heads of cattle. If this child, I will sell 2, that will take them up to Form 2 or Form 3. And then we'll see what to do then. Now there's nothing. So you're starting from 0. In fact, no, 0 is when you're more or less on a plateau. This one, you've gone below 0.
Indeed.
What are the expectations now that you've lost your livelihood?
Yeah.
I think the question has to be really loud, that who's going to answer for these children? Because they're not, what is required for them is not outside of what is being provided for other children.
Nope.
And I'm not even talking about the education here. I'm talking about a secure environment within which then their rights can be lived out. This is what we're saying. That the rights that they're guaranteed by the supreme law of the country is that they will have a conducive environment within which they can be then educated, fed and sheltered. We're not asking for anything beyond that. If this is not happening, and the answers that we're getting to these questions are a run-of-the-mill, flash-pan answers every now and then there really has to be serious soul-searching about what's really happening here. What is the value of life? If that is what is happening, it doesn't matter where they are in the country. Yeah. If that is the situation of that child, that is what you're showing the situation of the country as a whole is. I don't care how many others are doing better. I don't care how many others are having 3 meals a day. If there is one that as a result of a situation that can be taken care of is suffering and is below the bar in terms of what the requirement is, that's how bad the country is doing.
And we were told by Mrs. Katam, the children who are going to her school, to your primary school, would walk 3, 4, 5 kilometers one way to school.
So when do you
miss lunch, go home in the evening? You think they're going home in the evening?
How much learning are you going to do?
A proper square meal? Nope.
They're going to
4 kilometers walking to school.
These are primary school children?
Yes. Get to school, and as you're walking to school and you're walking back home, you just don't know at what point you could be attacked.
In many cases, these children actually even run to school, not even just walk.
Yeah.
Now, what I would like to know is the efforts that the government is making to ensure that this situation is eradicated completely. So that when you talk about equal opportunities, you look at these far-flung areas that have they themselves acknowledge and say they are marginalized, can say, actually, the opportunities that our children have is the same. So it doesn't really matter where you are in the country.
Yeah.
You are guaranteed that you are going to get the same opportunity for a good education.
There's so many failures in our system that have exposed these children to this. Very many.
My mind goes now to the consequences of it. Where do you think you find the breeding ground for these bandits?
Same tale.
Yes. Where do you think you find the breeding? We were told by our callers, the majority of people who form this motley group of bandits, people even know where they come from.
Yep.
People even know them. There's no guesswork. They know that's so and so, that's so and so. They're known. But what is of significance is that the areas that they supposedly come from is one of the most, I'm going to use it, the most backward, neglected places we have in this country.
Yep.
Whoever is in charge of the county, whoever is in charge, no roads, no hospitals, no schools. So what do you think is going to happen? The way of life that we're referring to as banditry seems to be the way of life that they're accustomed to.
That's their
and
life.
That they know.
That's what they know.
That's what they know.
It ought not to be that. That cannot be somebody's. You wake up every day and that's what it is. That's what you see as normal.
Not only normal, you're consigning an entire generation of people in that particular region to that life. And you know what's going to happen? They will die at some point.
Yeah.
No, let me put it correctly. They will be killed at some point. And they need not be killed. These are people who could do very many things that are productive and live a full life. And by the way, they are predominantly very young people.
But City, it would appear as though that's what's being waited for. How bad does it need to get? How many more people need to die? How many more stories like this do we need to hear on a daily basis before somebody sits up, pulls their collar up and does something about it? And this is the more painful part of all of this, is that if you can see it, if people can call and tell you this is what we see on a daily basis, the people with the intelligence and the wherewithal to do something about it and snuff out this know too.
They know, and they're doing nothing about it. Zachary.
Oh, hello guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, it's been a while. I'm okay. I'm now feeling well.
All right. Were you unwell?
Were you unwell?
Oh my God! Yeah, it's only that the Supradon came to my rescue.
Oh, there you go.
Hey.
I've been having a very serious backache actually.
Oh no!
Yeah. So now very quickly, because I know that we are functionally short of time, I've heard the stories of the two people from the Kerio Valley.
Yeah.
I also listened to Mr. Okoh when he was saying that let the government show these people that the only alternative to whatever they are doing is education.
Yep.
And you agree with me that an educated person has got so many options, not only going to do whatever they do there. You know, it gives them so many options. And therefore, this is my take. The government owes those kids who have performed, even that one who scored 192 marks.
Yeah.
Despite the harsh condition that he did the exam in, yeah, the government owes all those kids. They are not many, actually. It needs to actually take up their education bill and sponsor them and, you know, take them to far away places from that place. That would be my take. And you guys, you have a nice time and you are doing good.
Get well soon, Zachary.
Oh, thank you.
Asante, I completely agree with what Zachary is saying. These children are less than 100 who have sat KCPE in Kerio Valley this year. If you just look at one school has 19, another school has another 100. Take all of them through secondary school.
You can do it.
Sponsor them.
Yes, they can.
There's one option. You can do it.
Actually, the government can do the
Yes.
greatest of ease. That is not a problem. If they want to, they most certainly can.
Yep.
And if there are others who are not in Kerio Valley who need the same help, let them do the same.
Yeah.
You can't
Because
have
we have so many funds again, City. If you think about, Magoha has a fund for bursaries.
He does.
The county government has a fund for bursaries.
They do.
The CDF has a ring-fenced fund, 30% bursaries.
Yes, they do.
Then you have the local NGOs.
Who are plentiful in those regions.
In the region.
You have the presidential one.
Yep, that's the one I'm calling the Magoha one. You have all of them. And then you have the corporate organizations with the CSR arm. There's a lot of money that's available to
There are
actually take
options.
all these children to school. To have taken Kipchumba through the school that he needed to go to. Was it Kipchirchir?
Kipchirchir.
Through the school that he needed to go to.
Kipchumba already went to school.
We've seen him.
Yes.
We need, really.
You know, Eric, there's something you mentioned when we were having that break, that it is a lot simpler. Well, in theory, it is a lot simpler to simply understand the details of the funds that are available in that region and put them together so that you know this is what we have, these are the needs we have, and this way we take them. You know, I was telling you how I was amazed how some of the fees arrears in the school that I've been chairman of the board of management was. The county bursary fund sorted out most of my fees arrears. Because the students who had fees arrears couldn't pay. It was not that they didn't want to pay.
And how much on average per person, per student?
I cannot remember the details, but I know that literally all the students who applied for the bursary got. So the bursary burden in the school literally went down. They applied and they were given.
It's possible.
Oh, it's very, very possible. There are no bandits. It's just that many of these farmers were sugarcane farmers. And the sugarcane industry is on its knees.
Took a big hit. Yeah.
So these parents, many of them really don't
have an income.
No, they don't. They simply don't. So now, what about counties that have these problems?
Yeah.
They also have county governments.
Yep.
They also have CDF. And moreover, they have well-wishers, as we call them.
Yep.
In plenty. The students shouldn't suffer because of the ineptness of the leadership that they have within their regions.
They should not.
Short-sighted people who seem to think of nothing other than what's going to benefit in the really short term.
It's unfortunate. But we have to keep talking about this so that we play our part and something will be done. City, take us back to Chad.
Yes, one more day for Chad, which is tomorrow. Only when a tree is big and strong can you tether a cow on it.
Tree, big, strong.
Cow tether on it.
Tether cow.
Only when big tree strong. Yes.
If tree not big, strong.
No
Don't
tether cow.
No tether cow.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again tomorrow morning, God willing, from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now until 11, it's some music, and then Sugar and Spice. That's Yolanda and DJ Absolute will be here from 11. And of course, Quach will be here on Spice Drive later, and the adults in the room. Again, Barbara and Kirigo later on. Have a lovely day. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newsroom Dennis Seto. Government spokesperson cited the government's critical need to consult